The NFL is finally back!
And so are the Cappers Contest and Survivor Pools.
Congratulations to our Season 3 champion, Nunya, who joins the Pub Sports Radio Wall of Fame alongside our Season 2 co-champions, Guillermo Zertucci and Sharpie, and our inaugural champion, Peter Loshek.
And we're back for year 4.
The Cappers Contest lines come out every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. You pick your favorite 5 bets against the spread. Picks must be in by Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. You get 1 point for a win, half a point for a push. The victor at the end of the season is the one with the most total points.
$100 to enter each contest, of which 4% go to covering credit card fees, and the top 10% get paid.
But there's more. The great people at Harbor Acres Cottages in beautiful Nova Scotia, Canada, have offered up $1,000 for the capper who accumulates the most perfect weeks throughout the duration of the regular season. $1,000 from Harbor Acres Cottages. May the greatest football capper reap all the rewards.
Sign up right now at pubsportsradio.com.
Wide open Torrence! Oh, baby! Touchdown! How do you leave the best receiver in the NAIA that wide open?
You show, and that's what we do! Cat!
You're proud of me? And it's caught! Oh my goodness! Troy Torrence comes down with it!
Welcome all to our second half of our double premiere episode. Season 3 is here, Troy. We just capped the NFC. It is time to talk the AFC, and I'm pumped up, man. I love the work that we're putting in here. I love it. I can't wait to sit with all of this, sit with all the notes, and start making moves. The NFL season starts on Thursday, not too far away. How are you, my man? You're muted, my guy.
I apologize. I cannot wait to get into the AFC. This is where the biggest questions that I have are in the AFC. I think that there's more moves to make in the AFC than the NFC, and I'm ready to get into it. I think week 1, I'm so excited for our Tuesday show. That's really where the week to week, like the futures we talked about a little bit. It's really hard to make money in the futures market, but here we are. Let's talk it out. Let's see if there's any value here. And let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Thank you all for joining us here on Pub Sports Radio. We got my dude, Susie Easton, WT, Skydragon, Harold Williams, Big Daddy, Boom. It is time to get to work. And we start in the AFC East with the Buffalo Bills. 13-4 last year, plus 650 to win the Super Bowl, minus 310 to win the division. And their total wins is at 12.5. Now, you can have an 11.5 that's slightly more juice to the over. I believe it was a 160 and a plus 130 to the under. This was the, or you could build a 12. Lots of options here if you're looking at this Buffalo Bills win total. We have Sean McDermott in his 9th season as head coach of the Buffalo Bills, offensive coordinator Joe Brady in his 2nd season, and defensive coordinator Bobby Babich in his 2nd season. Defensive coordinator, not to be confused with Vancouver Canucks defenseman Dave Babich and his giant mustache of the early 90s. We have Bobby Babich in the 2nd season as defensive coordinator. Only the Chiefs, Troy, only the Chiefs have won more games than the Buffalo Bills since 2020. Kansas City, since 2020, has ended Buffalo season 4 times. Twice in the AFC Championship. Can this year be any different? I listen to Buffalo Sports Radio up here. I mean, I listen to some Toronto Sports Radio, but I love Buffalo Sports Radio. And the question that the sports analysts in Buffalo are asking, is it a them problem or is it an us problem? That's the question. And it will be an us problem if the Baltimore Ravens break through. It will be a them problem if nobody can beat the Chiefs. That's what they're trying to figure out right now. When push has come to shove, the Buffalo Bills defense is wilted. They've won 5 straight AFC East crowns. They're coming off a 2024 season in which they set a franchise record with 525 points. They scored 30 or more 13 times. Good God. 40 or more 4 times. Listen to this. They only turned the ball over 8 times. Unbelievable. The offensive line only allowed their quarterback to be sacked 14 times, and it returns intact to protect Josh Allen. James Cook has been paid after back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He signed a 4-year, $48 million contract extension with the Buffalo Bills, which will keep him with the team through the 2029 season. It includes $30 million in guaranteed money. He is now tied for 6th highest-paid running back in the NFL. Now, Cook was held out of practice for over a week. He missed the team's first preseason game, but he is happy. Despite Josh Allen's spectacular season, the Bills didn't get much from their receivers. Graded out 28th in the league. Keon Coleman struggled in his rookie season. Curtis Samuel can give way more. Dalton Kincaid did not take the next step at tight end after a strong rookie season. The Bills' defense needs to improve to finally topple the Chiefs and others. They finished tied for 11th in points allowed per game, 17th in total defense, and 29th in third down conversion percentage. They signed edge rusher Joey Bosa, defensive back Tre'Davious White, Dane Jackson, and Derek Forrest in free agency. They signed Shaq Thompson, one of my favorite players in the league, to a 1-year contract just on Tuesday. Veteran linebacker gets an opportunity to continue his career after 2 very injury-shortened seasons. He was not re-signed by Carolina in March. He spent 10 years with the team. Now he joins the Bills, where he's reunited with Sean McDermott, who was Carolina's defensive coordinator during Thompson's first 2 seasons with the team after being selected in the first round of the 2015 draft. They will be without 2 of its free agent additions. This is the wild part. Larry Ogunjobi and defensive end Michael Hoyt. They are suspended for the first 6 games of the season due to violating the NFL's policy against performance-enhancing drugs. The Bills knew that Hoyt was going to be suspended before they signed him, but they didn't know that about Ogunjobi. The NFL knew that, but the Bills didn't. That's a huge problem. And there's a very angry group of owners for the Bills because of all of this. Now, there are people in Buffalo who think this is perfect. Ogunjobi and Michael Hoyt don't get hurt. They come in and get after 6 weeks and they're healthy. We'll take this because they've dealt with a lot of injuries. They have depth with edge rushers. Greg Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, Javon Solomon tackles Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, Dwayne Carter. It's a lot of depth. Rousseau has established himself as one of the best NFL edge defenders. 80-plus PFF grade for the 3rd consecutive season in 2024. He led the team with 70 pressures and 11 sacks. Their safeties were graded, Troy, 31st in the league last year. How do you beat the Chiefs if your safeties are graded 31st in the league? Now, they have depth in the secondary. Christian Benford, Taylor Rapp getting older, Cole Bishop, DeMar Hamlin, Teron Johnson. They just don't have talent in that group. Not enough talent in the secondary. Take it away, Troy. The Buffalo Bills.
See, I don't know if there's not enough talent in the secondary. I hate the scheme that McDermott and Babbitt are running out there. It's a design bend but don't break scheme, zone coverage, no blitz, deep safeties, but that's not a good strategy with this type of defensive line. I shouldn't say defensive line. I should say defensive front. Last year, they had the smallest linebacker group in all of football. And if you're going to bend but don't break, you better have some big-ass linebackers that are ready to fill some gaps in the red zone. And I don't think they have them. Obviously, there's some turnover there at the linebacker position, but Terrell Bernard, he's 6'1", 224. Milano coming back. He's great in coverage. Don't get me wrong. Milano's a great player, very versatile player. He's 6 foot, 223. These guys are not big. 6'1", 230 for Dorian Williams. These guys are very small. So what happens when your defensive front is not being able to defend the run and you have a bend but don't break type of defensive scheme, it's not going to work. And that's what we've seen with this Bills team. I think that's their calling card. They have to be able to defend the run a little bit better. They have to be able to line yards. I don't think they're very good up front. Now, they do add Bosa. Their defensive line is going to be great. And you named them all, man. This defensive line is a top 7 defensive line with potential to start pushing the top 3. However, what's behind them is my problem. And it's not only just what's behind them, it's the defensive scheme in general. I don't think they're deploying a very good one. And if that's not going to change, I can't expect that the outcome of this entire team is going to change. The offense is going to be great. You got Josh Allen, clearly one of the most valuable assets in the NFL, mobility, IQ, and he continues to improve from a turnover aspect. He definitely was last year. And as the years go on, like you could tell Josh Allen, he's starting to understand the value of each and every possession. Despite a balanced approach that I would consider a balanced approach, they're 3rd in the league in the deep passing game, and Josh Allen is grading out as one of the best, if not the best, in the deep passing game. He grades out as the 2nd best, right behind Russell Wilson in the deep passing game in terms of PFF grade. And you can totally see that. Now, he does have a 4% turnover-worthy play rate, so it's not all pretty, but at the same time, like I talk about their deep passing game, their balanced offensive approach, I think they have it all on offense. They have a good offensive line. They got James Cook, who's one of the best in the league, in my opinion, but not a lot of depth behind him. They got a 2nd-year Keon Coleman, who's going to continue his rise to stardom. Khalil Shakur, who I think is like Wes Welker 2.0. Josh Palmer, who's another, sleeper, good at number 3. Like, this offense has all the pieces. They're going to be fine. It's the defense that I have concerns about. And why shouldn't I after what we've seen last season? Whenever you have Josh Allen at quarterback, you're going to be able to contend for championships. I just don't think the coaching staff defensively is going to be able to adapt. They're very stubborn in their ways. And if they don't change their defensive scheme, they're never going to reach the Super Bowl. Too small in the interior, specifically at linebacker. But even at the defensive line position, these guys are not big players. They're not guys who are going to be able to plug holes and plug gaps. You can't be light in the pants and play a bend but don't break defense. You just can't do it. They're going to fall short if they don't change. I want to see 5 down. I want to see a bear front. I want to see something different out of this defense. Until I see that, I can't expect them to win the Super Bowl, but I do think that they're going to contend for one again because they got Josh Allen.
He has proven to be a spectacular quarterback,
and he's adapting. Like, he's a chameleon. Like, he's definitely getting better as years go on.
The defense is an issue. I don't, AM saying Bills Super Bowl plus 650 in his opinion actually has value. I wouldn't say it doesn't. I'm not interested. I'm not interested really at that number. I'd be interested to see if they lose week 1. Be interested to see what that number is. If we can get up a little bit higher. But still, I'm not interested here. But I can tell you that a couple of these teams that they're going to be playing a lot are weak. And let's talk about one right now. The Miami Dolphins, 8-9. They are plus 10,000 to win the Super Bowl. 100-1. Let's get here. Sorry. Oh, there we go. Oh, thank you, Jose. If we could get that. There we go. Beautiful. We have Mike McDaniel in his 4th season. The Dolphins are 7-1 to win the division, and their win total just 7.5. Dolphins haven't won a playoff game in 25 years. Can Tua Tagovailoa stay healthy? He missed 6 games in 2024, 4 due to the concussion, 2 more with the hip injury at the end of the year. Miami was 2-4 in those games. We know he struggles against the blitz. Tyreek Hill had 81 catches for 959 yards, 6 touchdowns. Didn't make the Pro Bowl for the first time in his career. Jalen Waddle caught 58 passes for 744 yards in 15 games. It was his first season not reaching 1,000 yards. The tandem, and you talked about it last year, had great difficulty navigating the too high safety looks. Devon Achane has recorded a 92.2 PFF rushing grade over the last 2 years. That's second best in the NFL. again, it depends what stats you look at, because I looked at he running for 7.8 yards a carry as a rookie and 4.5 yards a carry as a sophomore and thought, well, that was bad. But there's more to that. Jonnu Smith broke the Dolphins records at tight end with 88 receptions for 884 yards and 8 touchdowns. What's his problem? He can't block. He's a weak blocker. He's not complete, but he can do some high-end offensive things. Pro Bowl left tackle Tron Armstead retired. They signed James Daniels. He is coming off a torn Achilles early last season with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They traded up in the second round to draft guard in Jonah Savinea. So there's a guard, second round pick out of Arizona. Liam Eichenberg re-signed, but he's hurt. Eichenberg will miss at least the first quarter of the season. This cornerback group is weak. Kader Kohu, he was supposed to be the only one returning. He suffered a season-ending injury. He's gone. Jalen Ramsey's gone. Minka Fitzpatrick comes in. Since 2022, when he had 6 interceptions, since then, he's picked off 1 pass. And he has forced 1 fumble. That's it. That's all Fitzpatrick has done. New safety, Melifonwu, is very versatile. Can be a good defender in the secondary. They bring in Ashton Davis at safety. Defensive tackle Zach Sealer anchors this defensive line. He's a monster. Back-to-back double-digit sack seasons. Calais Campbell, who's so good in the room, he leaves for Arizona. Chop Robinson, the first-round pick in 2024, is coming off 6 sacks. He finished 5th in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting. The Dolphins hope that Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb can return to some semblance of their former selves. They all both tore their ACLs. I don't see them ever coming back to what they were. The Dolphins defense does have a rock in the middle in Jordan Brooks. Guy's a beast, 132 tackles. If Tua Tagovailoa can play all 17 games, which he's done just once, then the Dolphins have enough firepower to compete for a playoff spot. Here we go. We have top sets, Miami Dolphins. Troy, take it away.
Let's just get right into the brunt of it. Well, actually, wait. Before I get into Tua and his injury situation, I want to talk about Mike McDaniel, because clearly he's one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. I said this last year, and I believe it to be true. You know, it just seemed as the season rolled on last year that he became this more and more disconnected with reality. Like, I feel like this guy is drugged out. I don't know if it's DMT or acid or what this guy is on, but you could tell, like, as the season went on, he became more and more, disconnected from reality. That's what it seemed like to me watching his post-game interviews. I actually watched a few recently just to confirm, because all my reports on the Dolphins was a concern with where Mike McDaniels is at as a head coach. Frank Smith is his pawn, and Anthony Weaver, I'm not even sure what to think about what he's going to deploy defensively. It feels schemeless. Like, you don't have an element of the surprise when you're this schemeless. Like, it just doesn't seem like he has any type of continuity with his defensive play calling. And you look at this offense. This offensive line is dreadful. So you have a dreadful offensive line, especially with Teron Armstead leaving or, retiring. You have a concussion-riddled quarterback behind a terrible offensive line. It's just a terrible concoction for a disaster to happen. And you look at Tua Tagovailoa, he's wearing a Vices helmet. Okay, that'd be like, you get one head injury and you're like, okay, I'm gonna downgrade from blue chip to bullshit. Like, he's wearing a Vices helmet. The helmet's has no history of being protective at all. And he, after his first concussion in 2021, he transitioned from a Speedflex, a Riddell helmet that I know to be one of the best helmets on the market, tested amongst his peers to be the best, and he downgraded. And it's all perception at some point, right? You suffered one injury, right? But I don't know how to explain it. I don't want to get caught in my bag. What I'm saying is, I think he's going to be injured again. There's no use in betting futures on this Dolphins team with Tua, who's not going to be able to play a full season. One sack, if he gets sacked and he hits his back of his head off the ground, he's out. He's out. And it might be over. Like, it might be over for him. And he's behind this weak-ass offensive line. The head coach or the offensive play calling can only do so much. It's only a matter of time before this guy's sitting his ass on the sideline, looking like a fool, and it's his own fault because he's downgraded his situation there, from a protective equipment standpoint. So, yeah, the offense, I think, is going to eventually fall off the grid because Tua is not going to be able to sustain a full season. You got Hill, Waddle, and Waller, who I think is an elite unit. Waller didn't play in 2024, but I think he's truly one of the best receiving tight ends, or, has the highest upside as a receiving tight end in the game. But it's not going to last because, hey, Tua's going to be out. It's just a matter of time. So I'd be looking to cap his backup just as much if I'm looking at the futures market, just as much as I'm capping Tua. The defensive line is promising. You got Chubb, you got Chop Robinson, you got Seiler. That's a tough front to deal with. It really depends on Chubb. I mean, if he's healthy, can we expect him to return to his form? Like, this is a team I was looking towards because you want to look under the hood when you're trying to bet a future in this market. However, there's still some problems. The secondary is really bad. With a good front seven, it only makes sense that they're lacking elsewhere. But I will say this, 2 quality safeties. You got Minkah Fitzpatrick, who we're going to talk about later because, he's leaving the Steelers. But how much was he a beneficiary of a great defensive front, a great linebacker group, a great defensive scheme? Now he's coming into this, like, throw a dart at the dartboard, like blind with a blindfold on. That's what this defense feels like. There's no continuity, no scheme. I feel like he's going to definitely be grayed out poorly relative to what he has in the past. And Melifonwu, again, like, he's another guy that I believe have a high belief in. I was talking about him when he was on Detroit, but I only think there's so much you could do when you have a piss poor defensive scheme. There's nothing I like about this team, Jimmy. I want to bet the under in this situation. 7.5 is telling, and it's juiced towards the under. It's probably going to tick down. Building a good 7 would be feasible for me. I think this team is going under. I know everybody's probably has the same sentiment. I don't care. I don't see a path to success for this team.
The problem is they go 8-9. McDaniel gets fired, and the over hits. That's the problem. The market knows they're going to be bad. How bad is the question? And for that answer, you need to talk about the Jets and the Patriots first and foremost, to make sure that to solidify your argument.
Yeah, I wish the team was last for that exact reason.
AM says 7.5 is too low.
No.
If everything goes right, yeah, it's too low. And
you better have a healthy quarterback the entire way. Tyreek Hill, I mean, he's 30 years old now, man. How much longer can he be one of the most dynamic specimens on planet Earth, where he's just absolutely elite? Like, it's going to fall off, man. This team is not in good shape, in my opinion.
Well,
I disagree with anybody betting the over in this situation with this team. And I know it's like going against the grain, and it's definitely a good contrarian bet, but I cannot get there. I cannot see this team being anywhere near successful. And
we saw Waddle and Hill struggle with the 2 high safety looks. We know that every team is going to do that to them. They've been sort of figured out. And if they can't that's why Achane gets all those passes, in the 5 to 10 yard range.
Yes.
Because none of the wide receivers are doing it.
Spot on, man.
In saying that, they're only a fade to me. And I think that 7.5 is so telling because they don't expect. I think I would love to see where the cash is. I would imagine that people think some people would say, well, that's a gift. Jets are going to be terrible. Who knows what the Patriots are going to do? I am interested in the under.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the under. But AM says his team wins 8. And that's the problem, is that if they win 8 games, it's a bad season. McDaniels gets fired, and I still lose. So I am going to put asterisks beside this under. The thing is I don't want to bet it because I think Tagovailoa will get hurt. I don't want that caveat. I want to be able to cash this even if he's healthy. And I want to break that down. If he plays, let's say 15 games, am I still going to cash the under? And that's sort of what I'm going to work with.
Here's the problem with betting their over. I mean, their home games are against quality teams outside of New England and New York, the Jets. Their first 2 home games are against those 2 teams. Then they got the Chargers at home, the Ravens, the Bills, the Saints, who are kind of weak, the Bucks, the Bengals. Like, I don't see a way they get to 7.5 wins.
I don't know either. And again, like Calais Campbell, it's not about even though he is having a bit of a resurgence, but it's about what he brings to the room. Like, even when Tyreek Hill was being arrested, who was the football player that got out of his car and stood beside him and made sure everything was okay and stood there in front of the cop, didn't say anything, it was polite. It was Calais Campbell. Nobody else. Calais Campbell stopped his car, got out to make sure it was okay. I think it's the character is going to suffer, Now the question is here, though, is Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. If you can see them kind of, rounding back to form, then they can catch the over here. AM says this line's 100% taking the public perception that there's no way Tua will be healthy. That's the problem. Topset says if he's healthy for 17, you'll lose that bet. That's what I'm going to be working with here. I
agree, but he's not going to stay healthy. Like, the evidence is overwhelming, and we study these metrics every single day. And being an analyst, I'm dealing with these numbers. Listen, quarterbacks take hits on the back of their helmet, the back of the shell of the helmet, more than anybody else in the league. If he gets sacked once, falls on the back, he's going to be out. Like, there's absolutely 0% chance, in my opinion, based on history, that he remains in the game or remains, part of the Dolphins' starting offense for 17 weeks.
I think so too. But I don't know if I want that bet here, but I would say the line for Zach Wilson starts this year, if it was 2.5, it'd be juiced to the over.
Yeah.
You think that's fair?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and here's the thing is, like, I agree and disagree with Dougie in the chat talking about Tua isn't even good enough when healthy. But he's proven that he's able to get the ball out of his hands, to be able to read the defensive set pre-flop, make his decision before the ball is even snapped of where he's going. I kind of disagree with that. Like, I think he is good enough under Mike McDaniel. As tripped out as he might be on DMT, on dimethyltryptamine, I think that he's capable if he's healthy. But I don't think he is, and I don't think he will be.
I'm interested in the under. We'll talk again on some of these spots on Tuesday.
Zope's throwing me a fucking shot. 0%? Like, is anything 100 or 0%?
Sadly, no.
In life? No.
Sadly,
nothing's 100 or 0%. I'm being hyperbolic, but like, I would put all my money if I got plus 100 that he'd play the entire season, even 16 games, like 15 games. I'd probably put all my fucking money on it, man.
I would take the over for sure. For sure. Let's talk about Jose Bouquet's New York Jets. 5-12 last year. 250-1 to win the Super Bowl. What a deal. 18-1 to win the division. 5.5 wins. Heavily juiced to the over at -150. Aaron Glenn's first season as head coach. Tanner Engstrad's first season as offensive coordinator, and Steve Wilkes' first season as defensive coordinator. AM says he's really high on these Jets. Jets have missed the playoffs for 14 straight years. Cutting Rodgers was the right decision. Letting Devontae Adams do whatever he pleases and get him out of town was the right decision. In comes Justin Fields. Fields started the first 6 games in 2024. And we have these questions that you have to ask yourself when you're capping someone like Fields. Was Fields the quarterback we saw in his first 3 starts? No, he was 5th in the NFL in passing grade at 81. Was he the Fields we saw in his last 3 starts? Well, no. His passing grade was 52.2. He was terrible. 6 turnover-worthy plays over his final 3 outings. Now, his 92.3 rushing grade over the past 3 seasons ranks 5th among all NFL quarterbacks. I actually thought he'd be higher than that. Garrett Wilson had his 3rd straight 1,000-yard season. It would be more difficult this year, as one would expect him to be doubled all season long. Who is going to take the pressure off of Wilson? Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard, maybe Reynolds, maybe, but no one else. Breece Hall comes in off a disappointing season, enters a contract year, so the stakes are very high. 2nd-round pick Mason Taylor becomes tight end 1, TE1. Offensive line is anchored by Elijah Vera Tucker. Can he stay healthy? Last year's 11th overall pick, left tackle Ola Fashanu, has to prove that he can be counted on. This year's 7th overall pick, Armand Membu, has the job at right tackle. The Jets' defensive line, led by star Quinn Williams, will be strong. Will McDonald will be in line for a massive payday if he can get to double-digit sacks again. Gone is C.J. Mosley. He was a leader. In comes 50-year pro Jamie Sherwood. He re-signed with the Jets, got a big contract. They will need Sauce Gardner to return to elite form. We remember Sauce being an elite corner, but that was in 2022 and 2023. The Jets finished 2nd and 1st in the defensive rating in those years. You know what they were last year? 25th. Since entering the league in 2022, he leads all cornerbacks in coverage grade at 91.9 and PFF wins above replacement at 2.10. But who is he? Is he the above average cornerback that we saw last year, or is he an absolute elite young corner that we saw in 2022 and 2023? And can Justin Fields stay healthy? When he's at his best, he accelerates in the contact. That's why I was a little surprised he was only 5th out of quarterbacks rushing grade over the past 3 years. I thought he'd be even higher. But when he accelerates in the contact, he gets hurt. But I want him accelerating in contact. It's a double-edged sword. Take it away for us here, Troy, the New York Jets.
This is one of the teams I'm most bullish on in the entire NFL, especially relative to the price that we're seeing right now at 5.5 plus 1,800. Just incredible, Super Bowl odds. And it's mostly because of what I see between Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes. You know how critical I am of I was of this administration last season with Saleh. I mean, I talked about it every single show. Saleh was terrible. He was a cancer to the organization. He was too stubborn to change. And he was definitely not connecting with players. I think Aaron Glenn is the exact opposite of that. I think him with just the duo of the defensive coaching staff is really clean here. And Steve Wilkes is a great guy for this defense. One of my favorite hires of this offseason, looking under the hood, I think he's one of the best defensive minds. I mean, I appreciate a good zone blitz. I'd be running zone blitz if I were a defensive head coach. And he knows how to disguise them appropriately. He loves cloud flats, but it seems like he's always right on cue when you need a hard flat, when you need somebody to play at the line of scrimmage from a flat perspective. The flats are one of the most important zones in a defense that runs zone coverage and how you play them. And I feel like Steve Wilkes has his hand on the pulse. So I really like that. Looking at the defensive personnel, it's really a little bit of a mixed bag because I love the defensive coordinator and Steve Wilkes, but the defensive line, after being one of the most dominant defensive lines in the NFL in 2023, they laid an egg in 2024. Quinn Williams is a dog. He's going to help hold things down. But there's going to be some players that we would like to see rise up. Will McDonald being first and foremost, posted us 59.5. So basically a 60 PFF grade. He was picked in the first round 2 years ago. I think that he still has a lot of upward mobility to achieve. And then you look along the defensive line, like Jermaine Johnson, this man from Florida State, first round, 26th pick, dropped from an 83 PFF grade to a 42 PFF grade. And this is going to be a common theme with this entire defense. You look at along this entire defensive front, the secondary, the linebackers, whatever you call it. Like, I feel like the cancer on the team came out last year. You've seen everybody, like, we needed a complete shift of culture. I think we're going to get that this season with Saleh being out, Wilkes and Aaron Glenn being in. And I think we're going to see a lot better performance out of this defensive front. Right now, PFF's got them like one of the worst defensive fronts in the league. I completely disagree. I think we're going to see a lot of upside. I think that's where my edge is in this handicap. Like, I disagree with where the market is with this defense, especially with the defensive front and the secondary, because Sauce Gardner, he's capable of taking one side away from the entire offense. Like, he is insane defensively, but how much did he really care down the stretch when this Jets team was just floundering, right? They had no chance of making the playoffs. There's really nowhere to for them to go. I mean, just the incentive wasn't there for Sauce Gardner. I think he's fully capable of taking one side of the field away, and I think he will. Really tough with the defense, like, because I'm so far off the market. Like, I don't know how to talk about this defense in a context that people would understand, but I think that they still have the caliber of defense that people can't see come into reality. And I think we're going to see that be achieved, that tier one level of defense being achieved from this Jets defense this year. When you look at the offense, I mean, there's a lot of question marks, especially when you look at quarterback. Like Justin Fields, is the experiment ever going to end with this guy? I mean, he's simply not capable, right, of adjusting to the speed of the NFL game. Without his mobility, what value does he really bring? At this point, like, that's my handicap on Justin Fields. But eventually, like, you know, Tyrod Taylor could take the starting job if that's what you think. If you think Justin Fields is really that bad, I think Justin Fields is better than advertised, especially with his start with the Chicago Bears. And then you put him on with Arthur Smith and the Steelers. Like, I just feel like there's room for growth from the quarterback position. The offensive line, PFF has his top 10. And I think it might be the most improved offensive line right after the Bears. 2 young tackles who I hear are being reported on that they're going to do big things in the NFL. And 3 of the top 10 players at their respective position on the interior line, right? Vera Tucker, Simpson. Like, if Vera Tucker could stay healthy, this offensive line should be solid. Breece Hall, I don't know what a fall from grace this guy had in his sophomore season. You know, I don't know what to expect from him really, but running back, not a position that really matters in my opinion. You want a good offensive line, you want a good play caller, and I think that you think about Tanner Engstrand. Is that his name? Engstrand?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, it is. Tanner Engstrand. He's from the Harborough and Ben Johnson tree. I feel like he's going to be just fine. He's going to be able to adapt as the years go on. So I think that this offense and defense is being undervalued here by the market, by the bookies alike. Really interesting team to me. I have very little faith in some of the things I've seen. Some of my lack of faith comes from what I've seen last season with effort, because there was clearly a lack of effort. But I do think that if this team stays in the race for division, I think we see this defense rise to the occasion. I kind of like this team. I want to bet the overs. I want to bet the division odds. I want to take a long shot. I want to take a shot with this team because I think they are capable of achieving way higher than what's being projected.
What do you think is the most likely bet that you make? Do you think it's a division at 18-1, an over 6 or an over 6.5, or just backing them to beat the Steelers week 1?
See, that's the thing. I think that I would back them to beat the Steelers week 1 more than I would want to. This is a future show, though. So from that standpoint, I'm going to have to make a move here. I'm going to have to put my nuts on the table. I believe in the Jets. I want to bet them to win the division, but I'm not. It's really tough, Jimmy. We're going to have to circle back after this conference is done, and I'll have a decision by then.
And you don't have to have it, but if you have it for Tuesday, that's fine. You can sit with all of this information. Don't feel forced. That was the reason why we did the double episode Sunday, so we could think about it for 48 hours when we meet again on Tuesday night. So Sky Dragon, Dennis Garcia, Jets plus 475 to make the playoffs.
Maybe that's what it is. Wait, is Sky Dragon's Dennis Garcia? No.
Yes. And he's got Aaron Glenn plus 1,500 to win Coach of the Year.
But the last show, though, he was doing wasn't his name just Dennis Garcia?
Yes, he's a very mysterious man. Now his name. Now he's Dennis Garcia again. It's just you gotta hang on tight. You gotta hang on tight with this man. Let's roll on to our next team in the AFC. The AFC East here. Our final team in the AFC East. Let's roll into the New England Patriots. This is going to be a real fun team to break down. It's going to be a real fun team to cap this year. I'm excited. I'm excited about breaking this team down. We have Vrabel, perfect coach for this situation in his first season. They bring back offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels and defensive coordinator Terrell Williams, all three in their first season at the helm or back at the helm for Josh. Vrabel takes over from Gerard Mayo. Mayo went 4-13. He was in a very, very difficult situation. It's too bad. I feel bad for him. They bring back McDaniels for his third stint. So he served as the offensive coordinator 06 to 08 and 2012 to 2021. And now he's back. Is Drake May ready to take this next step? Third overall pick. He had a pretty interesting season. The Patriots offensive line was an absolute mess. They started 12 different offensive linemen. They were hurt in the preseason and they stayed hurt the whole time. So they brought in Morgan Moses, a right tackle, Wes Schweitzer at guard, and the big one is Garrett Bradbury. If he can stay healthy at center, they bring him in through free agency. That's 2 off of the all-time record for any team, 12 different starting offensive linemen. Can Stephon Diggs be a number 1? Is he a guy you want in the room? I mean, I'm not in the room, but Buffalo got better as soon as they got rid of him. They drafted Kyle Williams out of Washington State with the 69th pick. They brought in Mac Hollins, Demario Douglas, Keyshawn Boutte come back. They have depth at running back. Travion Henderson will join Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson. Hunter Henry had to connect with Drake May. And Austin Hooper, not a bad 1-2 punch over there at tight end. The Patriots offensive line was the lowest graded unit in the league by 10 points, almost 10 points. First round draft pick Will Campbell will start at left tackle. As we said, Bradbury, and third round pick Jared Wilson will try to help this interior. The defense based around Christian Barmore and star corner Christian Gonzalez. Barmore has returned from the blood clots that took him out of the lineup last year. He's good to go. So we have Robert Spillane and cornerbacks Gonzalez and Carlton Davis, a free agent pickup from Detroit. They recently cut Jabril Peppers, but they still have Kyle Duggar. It's very, very interesting. They have so they bring in Williams. This is a big feather in their cap. He was hugely important in Philadelphia's Super Bowl run last year. He paced all defensive tackles in PFF pass rush grade at 91.7. He led the NFL in PFF pass rush grade and pass rush win rate on true pass sets, and he was given $26 million per year. So he lines up beside Christian Barmore, and all of a sudden, do the Patriots have one of the strongest interior defending pairs in the National Football League? Take it away here for us, Troy. The Patriots, they're 75-1 to win the Super Bowl, plus 500 to win the division. And their season win total is at 8.5 after a 4-win season. Take it away.
I'm bullish on the over. I'm bullish on the Patriots. Mike Vrabel is being the foundation of my bullishness. One of the pioneers of the 3-4 single gap scheme, all 3 down linemen, only responsible for 1 gap, allows uber aggressiveness from the defensive line. Pin your hair back, get after it. I love that. Unfortunately, I don't think he has the personnel necessarily right now to deploy that in the way he wants to. But one of the great coaches who is Tomlin-esque, he's going to keep his team in the game. We might see more nickel 2-4-5 or 4.25 based on the personnel that he has. So we'll see what transpires here, but really bullish on Mike Vrabel. Josh McDaniels, he did a great job in Las Vegas compared to what he had, relative to what he had. The coach, he wants to understand his personnel, and I think he's going to do the right things based on the personnel he has. The offensive line, this is my one problem with this unit. I love the message that they sent. They want to protect Drake May. They think Drake May is the future. I think Drake May is the future as well. They took Campbell 4th overall. They want to protect the guy. And the problem is outside of Campbell, because I think Campbell's going to be a goddamn good offensive lineman in the NFL, they're extremely light in the pants. They need Morgan Moses to return to where he was prior to his injury. If they don't get that, I cannot be bullish on this offensive line. You got Stevenson and Gibson in the backfield. I think it's quality and it's pretty good tandem to have. A lot of diversity there. Ramondre fell subject. I think he's a really good running back. He fell subject to a bad offensive line, bad game plan. And just overall, I mean, the game flow was terrible for Ramondre to post any type of good numbers, being down in so many games. But he is a caliber of running back that I like to look for. Middle of the pack wide receiver group, you got Diggs, Douglas, Hollins, Henry. It's enough to get the job done, but it's not enough to allow you to achieve the next level. And I don't know what Diggs is. Like, is he somewhat of a cancer? I think he could be, based on what I've heard from him in the media. But I don't want to pin that on him right now. Let's see how he responds to being with a rookie quarterback and with this new coaching staff. Drake May is a guy that I thought was one of the most impressive rookies. I mean, you got him and Bo Nix really are the two rookies that stood out above all of their counterparts last season. And he proved he's an NFL-ready quarterback. I mean, he was operating by one of the worst offensive lines in the league, pressured at a top 5 rate. And I think based on what he was given, he performed pretty damn well. With the new coaching staff, a revamped offensive line, I mean, now we could really see what he's capable of. I think he has very decisive tendencies. Like, one of my favorite things about Drake May is, like, he has decisive tendencies. Like, if he's going to run the ball, if he's getting pressure, he's going to make a decision very quickly, and he's going to pull the trigger. He's mobile. He's a good internal clock. I like Drake May. I think he's going to be successful in the NFL. And I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. The problem is the defensive front, the box, the front 8. They're 3 deep in terms of quality. You got White, you got Landry, you got Williams. Then there's a steep fall off after that. There's really no dependable depth. I just don't know what to expect from the defensive line. The linebackers, I don't know where to place those guys in the group, in the hierarchy of the league. 2 kids that were under-recruited in college. They have everything to prove. They played pretty quality football last season. Spillane, I really think Spillane is I talk about polarization being a quality I like. I think he's a very polarized type of player, very aggressive in the box. Should be good for Vrabel's defensive scheme. And the secondary is elite. Christian Gonzalez, he's an island boy. Put him out there on an island, and he'll be all good. Jabril Peppers, I mean, this team has been so bad that this guy's quietly been posting good numbers, quality numbers, that nobody's actually recognizing. I think he's going to get the recognition he deserves. They cut him. They cut Jabril Peppers? When did this happen?
I think within the last 72 hours, I would say.
Yeah, because I've been out of commission for about 5 days now.
It was a hugely interesting cut.
And he's not picked up anywhere right now?
Not yet.
Huh. That makes me think that there's some type of lawsuit or something coming his way from a legal standpoint, because you watch him on film, the guy was good. He's going to go somewhere. He's going to go somewhere and be if he's not in prison, he's going to be a viable option in the NFL. I can't believe that. See, 5 days. Imagine what 5 days will do to a motherfucker.
Yeah.
5 days. You know what? I like this team. Despite what I just learned about Jabril Peppers, I think this team has a lot of upside. 8.5. I mean, that just tells you this team won 4 games last season. 8.5. I agree with
As AM mentioned, that they have the second easiest schedule in the NFL.
This is a bet on team, 100%. I'm going to be betting on them pretty frequently throughout the season.
Week 1 at home against the Raiders?
Against the Raiders? Absolutely. I'm very interested.
I'd be very interested if you move on this over 8.5. They're a polarizing team, and there's a lot of hope right now, and there's a really good vibe right now, and I think that's why Jabril Peppers got cut, was because he wasn't being a bastion of positivity for Vrabel and for McDaniels. But
that's crazy to me that they cut him. But there was also something that I seen. I'm going to check it right now. The odds to win the division here. The Patriots are plus 500 to win the division. The Dolphins are plus 700. But to win the conference, there was a huge discrepancy in the lines here. The Patriots are plus 3,300. The Dolphins are plus 4,500. So it changed now. But at one point, when I did my cap on this team about a week and a half ago, there was even odds. So both teams, the Dolphins and the Patriots, were even odds. They basically had the same price for the conference and for the Super Bowl. But for the division, the Patriots had a lower price, which I thought was like, oh shit, the public is backing the Patriots. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case anymore. I mean, now it's looking like every line is there's that same split between the two. So
I think the public is backing the Patriots.
Yeah,
I do. But in saying that, I have some interest in them schedule wise. We have Dennis Garcia saying that he thinks that that it's a little too much. That he says, I honestly think New England is overhyped. I'm very interested to see what happens in the next 48 hours when we reunite on Tuesday here. Let's roll on. That was the AFC East. And now we roll on to the AFC North. The Baltimore Ravens, we start with 12-5 plus 650 to win the Super Bowl, tied with the Bills for the lowest number. It is the Eagles third. It's plus 700. They're minus 160 to win this division. And their win total is 11.5, juice to the over at minus 130. Got a little domo in the house. AM says Bengals division, get out of the way. Now, I have had to talk myself off of Bengals futures the last 2 seasons. I'm ready to do that again, but let's wait here. I used to always have Burrow in my pocket, and I've stopped that, but I've had to force that to stop it. We have John Harbaugh on his 18th season as head coach, Todd Monken in his 3rd season as offensive coordinator, and Zach Orr in his 2nd season as defensive coordinator. Lamar Jackson in 7 years is 70-24 in the regular season. I mean, it's insane. 70-24, 2 most valuable player awards, and 3 playoff wins. That is nuts. In 2024, Lamar Jackson became the first quarterback in PFF history to record both a 90-plus passing grade, 93.3, and a 90-plus rushing grade, 90.4. He's the first quarterback in PFF history to do that in the same season. The offense returns nearly every starter. Derrick Henry was a beast last year. He ran 325 times for 1,921 yards and 16 touchdowns, and a career high 5.9 yards per carry. Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson formed a historically great rushing duo in 2024. The Ravens had a 94.5 team rushing grade. That's the highest single season mark in PFF history. The Ravens went 11-0 when Derrick Henry ran for 90 or more yards. DeAndre Hopkins joins the group in wide receiver. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman are leading that group. Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. I like this because they're both in contract years. You just know you're going to get the most out of a player in a contract year. They re-sign All-Pro left tackle Ronnie Stanley. He with Pro Bowl center Tyler Linderbaum. They anchor the line. They returned 4 starters. The defense was graded 6th overall last year, but ranked outside the top 20 in both pressure rate and pass rush win rate. This defense led by Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, and Zach Orr gets a second season, which we think that he needs. He's going to get better each year. Nnamdi Madubuike, 13 sacks in 2023, just 6.5 in 2024, but he was being double teamed. We have Travis Jones stepping up here, but Michael Pierce retired and they need a run stuffer. And Kyle Van Noy and Odafe Owe both are 34 years old, team best 12.5 and 10 sacks respectively. And they're free agents after the season. They have players playing for contracts, and that is crucial. But there's not a lot of depth behind Van Noy in a way. You have Hamilton, who's a monster in the secondary, and you have Humphrey. They draft Malachi Starks, 27th overall, a safety out of Georgia. Cornerback Nate Wiggins was the top pick in 2024. He'll be there. And all of a sudden, Jair Alexander, we're not sure what he has left in the tank, but we know that once you put on the purple and black, that you step up. And he's more than capable of stepping up once again. I mean, I don't think anybody is questioning whether this is the best team in the NFL. What they're questioning is their postseason history. Take it away for us here, Troy, the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. Nobody's questioning this roster. They're questioning the postseason history. They're questioning Lamar Jackson specifically. And I can't blame them, especially after what we've seen this past season, where I was on the Ravens once again, and they faltered. They faltered this season. They faltered the year before that. 3 to 4 years in a row, we've seen the same thing, is a huge flop from Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. But the pieces are all there around him. John Harbaugh, Todd Monken, Zach Orr, all coaches. This is one of the best coaching staffs in the game. Todd Monken, I think, is one of the most creative offensive coordinators in the game. His ability to get athletes in space, creative use of motion, like a different, not the same type of use of motion either, like motion within the same side of the field. I wish I could see a metric like that, because I bet you Todd Monken would grade out number 1 in that category, meaning like a tight end on the right motioning out to the right to right flex, right? Not across the field, but on the same side of the field. Todd Monken, number 1 in that category. I think that's creative. Like, I think he's a pioneer in the game. I think I have no problems with backing Todd Monken. Zach Orr is the exact opposite of that. Very basic defensive scheme. Mostly man-to-man, stunts his D-line. Not a lot of blitz, but that's okay, right? Be good at something. Don't just be good at something. Be great at something, right? Jack of all trades or a master of none. And I think that Zach Orr really focuses on what he wants to do and wants to be great at it and doesn't want to get outside of that box. I can respect that. The offensive line, I think I don't even care what the offensive line does. I trust Todd Monken. Now, PFF has them graded somewhere between 10th and 15th, and I would agree with that. But look at Todd Monken and look at Lamar Jackson. Look at Derrick Henry, because Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson are a huge part of that. Being able to defend an RPO, a read option, and the passing game is very difficult for defenses to work on or to work with. And it keeps the defensive front on their heels. And that's why this offensive line is going to be better than what they grade out on paper. Stanley and Linderbaum, like you called out, those are the 2 guys, right? They're going to staple down this offensive line, and they're going to be solid. Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, the tandem in the backfield, it's impossible to defend that. It's really impossible. And then you add in the fact that you got Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell, who I think bring diversity and bring complementary skills to what Derrick Henry brings, speed and pass catching out of the backfield. And all 3 of those backs are above average pass blockers as well. I think that's very, that's something I'm interested in. That catches my attention. Zay Flowers, Bateman, 2 completely complementary receivers. Not only do you have a complementary backfield, but you got complementary receivers as well. Zay Flowers, more of the intermediate, short, Get him the ball, like, extension of the running game. Get him the ball in the flats. Let him do his work. Bateman, very deep threat. Threatening deep. You got Hopkins, who's a possession receiver, and you got the double-headed tight end monster with Likely and Andrews. I mean, all things considered, the wide receiver group is solid. And Lamar Jackson, people talk shit about him, and I get it because of his playoff mishaps. We see it every year. Eventually, I feel like that's going to turn around. This is the team that I think is the most likely to win the Super Bowl, despite what the odds are being laid at. Are they the odds-on favorite?
Yeah, they're the co-favorite with the Bills.
That's changed. So that is definitely changed. Wow. Look at that. Look at that. The Bills and the Ravens lead the pack for the most likely to win the Super Bowl. And I would agree. I haven't moved on this yet. That actually makes me not want to move it on anymore. But I don't understand why I would think that way, because all that should do is make me more bullish on this team. The offense is absolutely elite. You look at the defense. They don't have a lot of depth, but they don't really have a weak point either. Look from left to right. This is a solid defensive line. You named them all. The linebackers, I mean, they have one of the most elite linebackers in the game with Roquan Smith. Now, he did have a down season, but he's been one of the best linebackers in the league for many years. Simpson, a young kid with plenty of talent. He doesn't really stand out in any one way, shape, or form, so I don't know what to expect from him. And the secondary is number one. Jair Alexander in the offseason. 2 quality top 15 cornerbacks in Humphrey and Alexander. The best safety in the league. Maybe one of the, outside of a defensive line, outside of an edge rusher, this is probably one of the most valuable players in the NFL with Kyle Hamilton. You can put him in the box. You can man him up on a tight end. You can man him up on a number 1 wide receiver. And I feel like this secondary just has so much depth, there's so much greatness to be had in this defensive backfield. I haven't moved on it yet, but I think that this is certainly the most likely team to win the Super Bowl. And they should have represented the AFC last year. Unfortunately, they fell to the mob shit with OKC, with Kansas City and Mahomes. I'm considering moving on the Ravens to win it all prior to week 1 popping off. But now that they're odds-on favorites, I'm not sure if I'm going to do that.
I mean, they should be the odds-on favorites.
100%. I don't see how they can't be. But they are in the AFC. That's why. They're in the AFC. They got a lot of teams to contend with in the AFC.
AM says that the Bengals will shred this team. The Bengals did shred this team. Both meetings. And lost both meetings. They put up 38 points and 34 points. Nobody's questioning whether the Bengals are capable of shredding teams. The problem is the Bengals shred teams and still lose football games.
And nothing to address that.
But I have to talk myself off of the Bengals every year. I've done it great the last 2 years. And I have to do it again this year, but we don't get into them next. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. 10-7, 45-1 to win the Super Bowl. I'm shocked at that number. I mean, that shouldn't it be higher? I think it should be higher than that. Plus 550 to win the division. Their win total's at 8.5 at a pick'em. Aaron Rodgers comes to Steel Town looking for one last hurrah. He'll turn 42 in December. Last year, in his first year back from the torn Achilles, his mobility clearly declined, and he wasn't pushing the ball down the field. His average yards per attempt, 6.78. That tied his career low. His 7.3 yards of average depth of target was his lowest in any season as a starter. They have 2 first-round selections at tackle. So left tackle Broderick Jones, right tackle Troy Fautanu, and he just played 1 game last year due to injury. It's going to be huge having Fautanu back. They have a Pro Bowl guard vet in Isaac Sumalo. There are still questions about whether or not they can protect Aaron Rodgers. So Broderick Jones is going to move to left tackle. He was terrible on the right side the last 2 years. So are moving to left tackle. This guy was a sub-60 PFF overall grade. They're going to move him to left tackle. They lose George Pickens, but they bring in DK Metcalf. Metcalf coming off a 74.6 PFF. That's the worst that he's had. That's the lowest since 2019. And it's a very weak group behind him. Now, what could change that? Well, Freiermuth could be the second option. So you have DK Metcalf, who's big body, of Freiermuth, big body. He had 65 receptions last year, Pat Freiermuth. They let Najee Harris walk in free agency, and they replaced him with rookie Caleb Johnson. That's a two-man backfield. So, Jaylen Warren will be the first one out there, but the idea is that Caleb Johnson will end up being the bell cow. We'll see.
What about Kenneth Gainwell?
They do, yeah. He's their third guy. Yeah, they have. I was never a huge Najee Harris fan, anyways, but I don't know what. I think Caleb Johnson is a question mark at this point. And of course, they have TJ Watt. So their linebacking core is very strong. Watt had 11.5 sacks last year, in NFL best, 6 forced turnovers. His 91.7 PFF overall grade ranked behind only Myles Garrett among defenders who played at least 300 snaps. His pass rush metrics were behind Garrett's, but he also is the leading run defense grade in the NFL at 90.3. And they have Patrick Queen, who is great in his first season. Cam Hayward anchors the defensive line, and he's angry about his contract. There were fears that he would hold out. It doesn't seem to be happening. First-round pick Derek Harmon is the biggest addition to the group. Jalen Ramsey joins the team to replace Minkah Fitzpatrick. We talked about Minkah Fitzpatrick's shortcomings over the last few years when we talked about the Dolphins. Darius Slay and Joey Porter Jr. at corner. I don't know what Darius Slay gives you anymore. I have a vividness bias, and he's not that guy. He's not the guy he was. Take it away for us here, Troy. Black and yellow, Pittsburgh Steelers.
I see some sentiment in the chat talking about how this is the first year that the Steelers go under 500. The first year Tomlin goes under 500. And I thought that last year. I was like, this is about time Tomlin goes under 500, right? But as soon as you're about to throw in the flag on Tomlin, he goes out and does something to totally redeem himself and hires Arthur Smith. This is last year. Who embodies the brand of football Tomlin wants to play? Just two guys that want to play the ugliest brand of football you've ever seen, which is quite frankly the football that I like to watch, which is kind of embarrassing. But at the same time, I think Arthur Smith pairs well with Rodgers. I think it's insane how I feel this way. I feel like Aaron Rodgers, the way, how he's progressed throughout his old age, and I feel like he just matches so perfectly with Arthur Smith. Make quick throws, low risk decisions, willing to deliver death by 1,000 cuts. That's what Arthur Smith wants to do. That's what Aaron Rodgers, I think that's maybe what he's only capable of doing at this point. Terrell Austin, I'm not sure what to think about him. I go back and forth because I feel like with all the talent he has, I would expect more, especially the talent he has in the box, which is the most important on the defensive front. They're completely reliant on turnovers, and they've been able to generate them at a high rate. So I believe that to continue. The problem always comes back to this offensive line. This offensive line is young, inexperienced, and in that short, small sample of inexperience that we have, they've been ineffective. They've been terrible within that sample. That doesn't pair well with an old quarterback. Only one lineman, not in his freshman or sophomore year. So, like you think about Aaron Rodgers, I was talking about Mike McDaniels on DMT, but what about Aaron Rodgers? What the hell is he doing in his offseason? We see what he was doing last season when he was getting ready to play for the New York Jets. He was in Costa Rica with Mike McDaniels smoking DMT. It's not something I want to be involved with. Like the running back situation, I agree. Najee Harris, it's good to move away from him. I think Jaylen Warren is better than him. I think Kenneth Gainwell and the rookie is better than him. So I think the running back situation is just fine, but I don't believe in this wide receiver group at all. Metcalf is the headline of this group, and he had a down year last year, and he looked slower. He looked less physical than he has been, the physical specimen that we knew him to be. I don't think we've seen that last year, and I think he's way more fragile than he's used to be. And it makes sense. I mean, that age really starts catching up with you. Then you got two unproven rooks, and you got Freiermuth. I mean, he's good as a tight end, but he's not great. It's not like he's not going to demand a scheme to be schemed around him. Like the wide receiver group is weak. And Aaron Rodgers, I can't expect him to elevate to the Aaron Rodgers we know and grew to love. I don't think we're going to see that out of Aaron Rodgers, but he can command an offense. He's going to have to drag this offensive line up a few tiers, and I don't think he's going to be able to do that. Is he going to be able to inspire this offensive front? I just don't believe in it.
Who gives them a better chance to win, Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers?
Shit. Well, Aaron Rodgers, I want to give him a little bit more credit because of how he finished last season off of his injury. You know, he had that injury with the Jets early, but then, you know, the following year he came out. He looked piss poor. He looked terrible. But towards the end of the season, he started to progress. I wonder if the PFF grades would agree with that sentiment, but I bet you they would. He really came on pretty strong towards the end of last year. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is better than Russell Wilson. So I would say Aaron Rodgers gives him a better chance. And then I don't even know how much I have to go into this defense. The defense, the defensive line is head and shoulders, you know, the best defensive line in the league, give or take one or two teams. Between Watt, TJ Watt is probably the only other player outside of Myles Garrett and Hutchinson that really commands a different scheme than commands two defense or offensive assets to be allocated to him every snap, or he's going to completely annihilate what you want to do, because he can rush the passer, yeah, but he's a great run defender. His instincts defending the run are second to none. So I think Watt is he makes this defense what it is.
Is Cam Hayward angry? Is he angry every time he shows up? I mean, like he's given everything at a, you know, I understand why they don't want to renegotiate. I get it, but I mean,
he's 37,
yeah.
or he's going to be 37.
Yeah, 36 right now. Yeah,
I just feel like once he's out there on that field, once he's playing under the Tomlin umbrella, that he's going to continue to elevate his gameplay, and he's a plug, right? I mean, you think about some of the players that age affects less. It's the quarterback position. It's the players that don't have to be very mobile, and he doesn't have to be. He just has to plug up and make sure he generates defensive line yards, gets into the backfield. And I think he's going to be able to do that. I don't think that that's a big deal.
Are you interested in if I gave you a free $500 bet right now, we're sitting in a casino, I said, give me a future and put in my pocket on 8.5. It's a pick 'em. Where will you go?
I would go with the over. Because I believe the secondary is better than advertised. I say advertised because I know you're down on Darius Slay, and I agree. But Darius Slay, he was with the Eagles, so I guess I can't really put too much eggs in that basket. But this defensive front is absolutely elite, especially from a pass blocking standpoint or a pass rush standpoint. So if you're going to get an elite pass rush, and you're going to have Darius Slay have to guard for a half a second less, that's a massive difference. I think that this defensive secondary is going to be pretty damn good. I would probably take the over on this win total rather than under, because I think the defense. Here's why. The defense is what it is. We know the defense is going to be good. I think the defense is going to be good. I think Patrick Queen had a down season. Patrick Queen is a guy who I believe can guard. He's very versatile. I think he could defend coverage. He can guard the run. He could pass rush if you want him to do that. He could play man coverage, or at least from what I've seen on tape. And it's only a limited sample from that standpoint. But the big thing to me is I think Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers pair well together. Based on what Aaron Rodgers' capabilities are and what Arthur Smith wants to do, and as be boring as they possibly can fucking be. And I think they pair well together.
And we're one of the only two Arthur Smith fans in North America. He's the guy's just despised by everyone. So you lean to the over 8.5, and yet you may fade them week 1 against the Jets.
Yeah, this is true. That's a true statement. I do lean towards the over, but I will probably be fading them, and that's all dependent on how the line moves from here until Tuesday, because I'll probably have action on this game on Tuesday.
Oh, I'm going to have action on this game on Tuesday.
Yeah,
There's no doubt. But the game, I love the game. I'm so excited for this game. But let's roll on.
Oh, the Jets teaser leg, Jim. I got to get you more involved in those teasers, man. Oh, this is a great teaser. Great.
We stay in the AFC North, and we're going to talk about AM's Cincinnati Bengals. 9-8 last year, 22-1 to win the Super Bowl, plus 250 to win the division. And they have a pick'em on their win total as well, like the Steelers, but it's at 9.5. Zach Taylor in his 6th season as head coach. Offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher in his 2nd season. And guess who comes out of Notre Dame? Those of you guys watching Notre Dame Miami right now. But Al Golden comes over in his 1st season as defensive coordinator here. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase look to get the Bengals back into the playoffs and beyond. The reason why I talk about whether Cam Hayward is happy or not is because it's important to the vibe of a football team. And we knew that Chase and T. Higgins were not happy last year.
You knew that, Jimmy. You knew that.
And we talked about it. It is a crucial the energy around a team, whether your superstars come in happy, is important. Now we know that the Bengals are cheapskates. They offered Boomer Esiason. I don't know if you know, but there's the Ring of Honor celebration for their first game of the year. Esiason read out the email he was sent, and they said that they've given him a code for the hotel to give him 20% off the hotel. Boomer's name is on the Ring of Honor, and that was it was such a. He couldn't believe it. He was just reading it out like, this is the cheapest organization in sports, basically is what he was saying. And it was a shocking display of their cheapness. But Chase and Higgins signed massive contract extensions. Trey Hendrickson had to hold out.
Yeah.
He got it as well. So
when did he get that, Jimmy?
What did he get exactly?
No. When?
Oh, God! I want to say 2 weeks ago. I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Trey Hendrickson had 17.5 sacks last year. The rest of the team at 18.5. I don't know how to bet the Bengals in the future market anymore because of it's like Mark Schott is their owner. Like they're such assholes, and they're playing with fire. It's almost like Jerry Jones. Then they get out negotiated, and then they get so angry that they have to trade somebody away. They're assholes. Now AM says nobody wants the Bengals in here. I love it, and that might be in here because everybody wants Joe Burrow. The people I talk to want the Bengals every year. I'd be curious, and I would bet that the Bengals are a very popular future here after the contracts. But I don't have those numbers. The defense must help the offense win games. So out is Lou Anarumo, and in comes Al Golden. And Al Golden gives this team some hope. As I said, Trey Hendrickson got the cash, thank God. He ranks 5th among qualified edge defenders in pass rush grade, 4th in pressure rate, 8th in pass rush win rate. They drafted A&M product Shamar Stewart to help out Hendrickson, but they need more help. I mean, Joseph Osai, 5 sacks in 2024. Cam Sample was out all of 2024 with the torn Achilles. Jermaine Pratt bounced. He left for Vegas. Logan Wilson is still there, ready to anchor the linebacking core. Dax Hill comes back from the torn ACL. He could improve this backfield. It's very young and weak. And they need more from Geno Stone. I mean, he was such a big acquisition, and he struggled in this first season. Take it away for us here, Troy. The Cincinnati Bengals.
I think that the overarching theme with this organization is that they're plagued because they're alienating their roster, like you've talked about. I can't get out of my head because you came in here last year with the same type of sentiment where they're cheap. They don't want to pay their superstars. You knew it was going to be a problem, and it came to fruition. It was a massive problem. They didn't want to pay Hendrickson. They ended up paying him about 2 weeks ago. But I think it's a problem. There's definitely a disconnect between upper management and the roster. Zach Taylor, he's going to be calling plays for the offense. I know they got Dan Pitcher or whatever his name is. But he's had success, but you have to imagine that it's easy to have success when you have Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, on the roster. L. Golden, supposedly they call this guy the Viper, and it's because they use Hendrickson as a jackal, what I call a jackal, someone who moves all over the field from left to right. Will even motion from the left side of the offensive front to the right side of the offensive front, mid play or right before the snap starts. I think the defensive coordinator is grasping for straws. His playbook is very vast, probably trying to overcome just how terrible his defense has been, and the defensive line is terrible. Outside of Hendrickson and I guess B.J. Hill, who's slightly above average, the rest of these defensive linemen are god awful. And really, is there any upside with these guys? I mean, who they take in the offseason to re-solidify this defensive front? I just cannot be a believer in this defensive front. The defensive, the linebackers, again, are really, I mean, this is probably the strongest suit of the defense, and they've got to be the bottom half of the league. Burks posted a top 5 PFF grade. Did he get fucking outed? Jesus Christ. Things have changed over the last 5 days. Logan Wilson is good, nowhere near elite in the secondary. Last season, this secondary was god-awful, and I think it's because of coaching more than anything. Because we talk about parity in the NFL. There's a lot of parity, of very thin margins between one player and the next. So you got to look at the defensive coordinator. You got to look at what he's trying to do. And if you watch film on this guy from week to week, you put him up against two of the similarly crafted offenses, and it's two completely different schemes. It makes no sense. So there's not a lot of logic in the defensive play calling, and I expect that to continue because we have the same defensive coordinator and really the same formula for this team that we've seen over the past few years. There's absolutely no way I can turn bullish on this team. 9.5 is too high. If I was betting all of these, free $500 bet, I'd be taking the team total under in this situation. Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But here's the problem. You put him behind one of the worst offensive lines every single year. What do you expect what do we expect from this guy? How is he going to take the next step forward if he keeps getting put behind a terrible defensive line or offensive line? It's like playing basketball in flip-flops. You can only do so much. So, I'm not bullish on this team. I think that the Bengals are probably one of the worst futures on the board. And I don't mean that as any disrespect to anybody in the chat. I'm just very, like I've talked about polarization. That's how I run. I'm very bullish or very bearish, depending on the situation. And this is one where I'm very bearish.
I think they're an easy team to get behind. They always are. From week 5 to the end of the regular season, Burrow averaged 303.1 passing yards per game, 36 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Chase led the NFL in receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns, everything. And, of course, we have T. Higgins as the second option. Cincinnati went 3-7 in games Higgins missed over the past 2 seasons. With Burrow, Chase, and Higgins all on the field together, they went 8-4. We know that they're very slow starters. They're concerned about it. In 2022, 0-2. In 2023, 1-3. In 2024, 1-4. Chase Brown is a monster. This team is so exciting. They have so many. I see this team as a very popular team, and their offensive line is horrific. They didn't fix it in the offseason. They're going to rely on this internal improvement. They have finished in the bottom 5 in PFF grade in 4 of Burrow's 5 seasons. In 2024, they were 29th in both pass blocking and run blocking, and they did nothing to fix it. But Chase Brown,
like that's so bad. That is the sign of a broken organization, a broken upper management, like 100%.
I see them as now again, like, how are you not a Joe Burrow fan? I mean, you don't like football if you're not a Joe Burrow fan. He's spectacular. This team's so exciting.
And he wants to win. Like, he plays with will. He plays like he's a rookie trying to earn a contract every game.
I'd like to see if I can get my hands on some of the, because my prediction is that they're extremely popular in the futures market. People think, oh, I'm buying them low. But that is not the feeling in the chat. And again, every year I had to talk myself not wanting that over 9.5. That division price is very low, considering that the number one team in the NFL, are the lowest odds to win the Super Bowls in the same division. If you use the Bills as a comparison, now Bills are a bigger favorite than the Ravens to win the division, but the second highest team to win that division is plus 500 in the Patriots, and the Bengals are plus 250. The market respects them. That's a plus 250 is such a short number when the Ravens are in the division, so the market respects them. I'm going to and D Jenkins says on Hard Rock, Bengals to make the playoffs drop from minus 155 to minus 140. Interesting. And AM says he's not advocating a Super Bowl bet, but this is the Bengals division.
Here's the thing. On 3rd and 8 in a 2-minute drill, Joe Burrow's going to drop back to pass. What are they going to do against the Steelers? It's just, I just think it's far-fetched to want to bet on this team, this offensive line. The offensive line is really the line in the sand that I'm drawing, because this is not a good offensive line. They've proven to be bad. There's no reason to expect upside with this unit.
The ownership is wasting the prime of Joe Burrow, and you should have heard Boomer, who's a pretty class act. You should have heard him. He didn't say anything negative. He just read the email out, and it was like, good God, his name is on the stadium. It's trash. They're trash, but I still love their offense. And I love Chase Brown. London, Ontario's Chase Brown. All right, let's talk about the Cleveland Browns, 3-14. The Super Bowl, they are plus 40,000. 400 to 1. To win the division, they're plus 3,000. 30 to 1. Their win total's at 4.5. The over is minus 150. The under is plus 120. Stefanski in his 6th season. Offensive coordinator Tommy Rees in his 2nd season. Defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz in his 3rd season. Joe Flacco is the starter. He'll turn 41 years old in January when the Browns are watching other teams play in the playoffs. He comes over from the Colts, where the offensive line ranked just 27th in pass blocking grade last season. They have a veteran group here. Okay, sorry. I think the Colts, sorry, I say that wrong. So the offensive line in pass blocking grade last season here for the Browns was 27th. That's what I meant to say here. I think I just wrote this out wrong. The Colts were 10th. So that's a problem. Now they had a ton of injuries on the offensive line. They have a veteran group. Jack Conklin. If he's healthy right now, he helps very much. They have questions at left tackle. DeJuan Jones is, switching positions. He's returning from off-season knee surgery. They have Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, and Ethan Pochich. Those are solid vets if they can stay healthy.
All of them were injured at some point last season.
All of them. And there are weapons. Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku are weapons. The Browns last year had 8 rushing touchdowns. That's it. I mean, this team was an absolute mess. Cedric Tillman started stepping up. Then he got concussed. They have Jerome Ford and second-round pick Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State. Judkins has got to take over that spot. They also have Dylan Sampson, 4th round pick. He should get some touches too. Myles Garrett publicly requested a trade in February, and then in March he got signed and extended till 2030. For a very short period of time, he was the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. He leads all defensive players in PFF grade since 2021 at 95.3. The defensive line ranked second in the NFL in PFF grade last season. Only Pittsburgh was ahead of him. This is a very, very good defensive line. They were the only defensive line in the NFL to finish in the top 5 in both pass rush and run defense grades. Denzel Ward is still excellent in his 8th season. Now, Martin Emerson Jr. tore his ACL. He's not been that good. There was talk that Greg Newsome would have that job anyways, but now they're forced to give Greg Newsome the job. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is probably not going to play football ever again, unfortunately. So he's going to be gone with the neck injury that he suffered last year. They drafted linebacker Carson Schwessinger in the 2nd round. They signed Jerome Baker in free agency to replace Owusu-Koramoah, who was becoming a very, very good linebacker. They have Grant Delpit, so they have leadership and toughness at safety. They have Jordan Hicks. They have new defensive tackle Malik Collins and defensive tackle Shelby Harris. This total is at 4.5 win total for the Cleveland Browns. Take it away, Troy.
I actually, and this is not going to come as a surprise to anybody, I talk about this offensive line. I talk about this defensive line over the past 2 years. And here I am again about to pitch you a Cleveland Brown narrative because I still believe in their defensive and offensive fronts. The offensive line, they didn't grade out last year. They did not perform well when they were on the field last year. Maybe that's a sign of what's to come. But I still think that this is where you'll find value in the future. And a team with a lot of question marks, a lot, injuries. Will they be able to return to form? But there's a lot of unknowns is really where you're going to be able to find value. And I think that this offensive line could grade out anywhere between 5th and 32nd. 4 of the 5 offensive linemen that are projected to be starters in week 1 at one point were top 10 in their position. Conklin, Teller, Pocic, Bitonio. Maybe the injuries change things, but I think we could still see a surge in their performance. The running back position, the Chubb era has ended, and it ended horrifically. Very sad. I think he lost a ton of his ability. There's a bunch of metrics that came out recently that talked about how Chubb was slower. All of his reactionary metrics dropped off a cliff. Jerome Ford steps in. I think he's a competent back. Not like I value the running back position all that much. The wide receiver position, you got Jerry Jeudy, you got Njoku. And after that, the caliber falls off. But hold on a second. Hold on. Harold Fannin Jr. is a tight end that comes from Bowling Green. This guy he's very fast for the tight end position. He's got great hands. He averaged over 100 yards per game in his last season at Bowling Green. I think this guy's going to be a stud. He was drafted what round was this guy drafted? This guy's a fucking dog. Harold Fannin Jr. was drafted in the 3rd round, 67th pick overall. I think he's going to be a dog. I think we're going to see a lot of 12 personnel from Stefanski, from Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees, who was hired from within, I think he's going to help deploy the Stefanski scheme very well. I think Stefanski's a great coach. I think what he was subject to with all the injuries he faced over the past 2 seasons, I think what he's been able to accomplish has been impressive. Not only injuries, but what happened with Deshaun Watson, because it was just a tragedy what happened with Deshaun Watson. And at quarterback, he got Flacco. I don't know how long he's going to last, but Flacco's comments in the offseason were awesome. He's not trying to, he's trying to win a job. He's not trying to usher in a new era. He's trying to win the job at the quarterback position. That's what I want to hear as a backer. I want to hear a guy that wants to be there, wants to win, wants to be the starting quarterback. That's what you have with Flacco. And if they can generate some line yards, which I think they'll be able to if their line stays healthy, that's the big question. Will their offensive line be healthy? Because if that's the case, they'll be able to they'll churn out some yards if they're rocking 12 personnel with 2 tight ends. with Njoku and with Harold Fannin Jr. I think Harold Fannin Jr. is going to be an elite tight end, better than Njoku. I project Harold Fannin Jr. to be better than Njoku. If that's the case, then I think there's a lot of upside with this offense. And I see value in this team because I think they're being underpriced.
Week 1 at home against the Bengals.
Yes, very, very interesting in that price.
Were you surprised at the total at 47.5? I thought it'd be lower.
Shocked. Absolutely shocked. But that's a reflection of how bad the Bengals defense is. I think that's a reflection of how bad the Bengals defense is. And I talk about this defense for the Browns like they were the best thing since sliced bread. And last year, I think, the crows or the chickens, whatever it is, came home to roost. Whatever that figure of speech is, they came home because we tried it. They're very polarized scheme. Like when your offense is not producing, what are you going to do defensively if you got Myles Garrett and you got this defensive personnel? You're going to try to apply pressure. You're going to be very, very aggressive. And if you get beat deep, you get beat deep. But if that's going to offer you the only chance you can do to win, you're going to do it. And I think that's what we've seen. I don't know if we're going to see that this season. I probably are. Jim Schwartz is still the defensive coordinator. So, and you got Myles Garrett still on the field. And Myles Garrett is one of those guys, one of those 3 guys in the NFL where, he's going to change the whole dynamic of the offensive game plan just because of how elite he is. And it's not my opinion. Yes, my opinion is that this is my opinion based on what I've seen on film. But go look at what other players in the NFL have to say about Myles Garrett. They're going to tell you that he's the best defensive lineman that they've ever went up against. The guy that can get one arm on you and push you to your fucking ass, spin off you like it's nothing on his short foot. I think he's probably worth more to the spread than any defensive player in the league. I think the linebackers are top 10 between Devin Bush and Schweissinger. I think that they could achieve a top 5 status, no doubt about it. Bush proved himself in the NFL, and I think Bush is actually, despite what PFF has to say, what I've seen in the scheme, which we know is man-to-man, high pressure, he's put on an island. He's put in a very bad situation a lot of times because he has to defend a slot receiver or whatever it may be. I think Bush is an elite defensive player. The secondary, I feel like I want to grade this. Last year I would tell you this is a top 5 unit in the league. This year I'm going to say they're middle of the pack, and it's because I think there's some low IQ. Like you see some blown coverages. I don't know if it's coaching. Usually I would blame blown coverages on coaching, but we're playing man coverage. There shouldn't be a lot of blown coverages. So there has to be a lack of IQ somewhere in the defensive backfield. I don't know who it is, but Newsome, Ward, Delpit, Hickman, they're all capable man defenders. After such a terrible season last year for this group, like I'm sure most people want to throw in the towel on this team. I just want to dig my heels in more. Maybe it's my stubbornness. And if it is, Jim, tell me, because I think that there's value on this team at 4.5 to go over their team total wins.
Well, it's heavily juiced. You have to turn into a 5, I think.
Yes, you're right.
The total at 47.5 for week 1. It's 44.5 week 2 when they go into Baltimore. I think that 47.5 is too high. Rance doesn't agree. He thinks it goes over, but I think it's too high, and I think I make this bet pretty quick.
Well, the problem is like I don't know what to expect from the defensive play calling. I don't know what to expect. That we're going to see 5 men, cover 0, because that's what we've seen with this team. We've seen cover 0 like used at a ridiculous rate relative to the league. So
it's tough to trust Schwartz, but this is as healthy as the Browns are going to be all year. And maybe it's worth taking advantage of at the 5.5, and we'll talk, more about that.
I'd be interested to hear Wine Time and what he has to say about Schweissinger, because I backed UCLA just as much as he did last year. That's his team. He's back in UCLA like until the cows come home, and I think he was elite, high IQ, great anticipation. He was a great leader in the locker room. From what I've read, he can cover. He's good in coverage, good versus the run. And he's key. He's key to the defense being able to operate. So
I agree with Dennis about betting both of these unders, and I think it might be worth getting in on them now. Coin gave us this. He says, I know this is a futures show, but here's a nugget. Week 1 division home dogs are 23-7 against the spread since 2010. 18-4 against the spread since 2012. 18.
I'm betting this. I'm betting it right now. I'm betting the Browns week 1 right now. Make it official.
I love it. I love it. Let's make it official.
It's right around my number too, Jimmy. Jimmy, you know this is my number.
Blew through the 6.
Mm-hmm.
Let's roll on. We have official action here. And AM thinks that you can get a better line if you wait. Be curious.
So AM saying it's going to come back.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I
can't wait. I'm going to buy up to the 6, and I'll be on the money line if it gets down to 4.5. That's for sure.
Let's roll on. We just talked about Chubb. Now we'll talk about his new team, the Houston Texans. They are plus 3,000, 30-1 to win the Super Bowl, minus 105 to win the division. And their win total is 9.5, minus 130 to the under. It's the 3rd season for DeMeco Ryans as head coach and Matt Burke as the defensive coordinator. The 1st season for Nick Caley as the offensive coordinator. Stroud has weapons. Nico Collins is a dynamic WR1. 93.2 PFF receiving grade since 2023. That leads all wide receivers in the NFL. Christian Kirk is a strong WR2. I don't think losing Stephon Diggs hurts, honestly. Now, Tank Dell is going to miss the season due to a knee injury, and they don't have depth. They don't have depth at wide receiver, so maybe Stephon Diggs would help. I shouldn't be that negative. Dalton Schultz is coming off a tough year. He is not living up to this contract. $36 million contract. He did not look good. And then we have Joe Mixon. He was excellent last year. He is on the reserve non-football injury list as he has dealt with this ankle injury. Sidelined him throughout the OTAs, minicamp, training camp. He had the ankle injury last year, and he said it was bothering him all summer. It's a real problem. It is unclear when Mixon will come back, if he'll come back after 4 weeks, which makes Nick Chubb RB1 and Dameon Pierce RB2. This offensive line has been terrible. 25th in PFF grade last year. And then we have Stroud, who was just not as good in his sophomore year than he was as a rookie. And then who do we blame for that? Well, there was injuries to wide receiver, but you have to point the finger at the offensive line. Stroud had a 77.5 PFF passing grade. It was tied for 11th best in the NFL. His deep ball ranked 29th in the NFL, interestingly enough, 75.9. Why that's so interesting is because in 2023, he was number 1 in the NFL in deep PFF passing grade. Is that, again, solely based on the offensive line? That's a big drop. You go from number 1 to number 29 in deep balls. But why? He was sacked 52 times. They trade away Laramie Tunsil. They cut Shaq Mason. They trade away Kenyon Green. They bring in Cam Robinson to replace Tunsil. They bring in New England Patriot Jake Andrews at center. Laken Tomlinson was once a Pro Bowler at left guard. And they fire Chris Strausser. He was the offensive line coach, and they replace him with Cole Popovich. Popovich and Caley are former Patriot colleagues, and they coached under Belichick. Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter are, that's an excellent pass rush. Danico Autry is on the reserve PUP list as well. He played through a knee injury for most of 2024. It's supposedly precautionary. So, we talk about, is Mixon coming back after 4 weeks? We don't know. Probably not. But Autry is expected to come back after the 4 weeks goes through. Sheldon Rankins is back. Tim Settle Jr. Is, size and strength. Mario Edwards Jr. Can rush, interior rusher. Derek Barnett and Darrell Taylor are not even starters. They're just going to be in the rotation, keeping everybody fresh. Troy and I are big Aziz Al-Shaair fans.
Massive.
He's dangerous, and that's what this sport is supposed to be about.
He's dangerous to everybody anybody he crosses, any path he crosses.
You want him on your football team. Now, when you cross the edge, sometimes you cross the edge. And should he have forearmed Trevor Lawrence in the face? Probably not. But if you demand your players to play on a certain edge when they cross the line, it should be expected. Derek Stingley Jr., $90 million extension. He's the highest paid cornerback in the league. Since 2023, he leads all cornerbacks in PFF coverage at 90.3. Since 2023, he leads all cornerbacks in interceptions at 12. You got Kamari Lassiter with Derek Stingley. So now you have two cornerbacks that each were in the top 12 cornerbacks in PFF coverage in 2024. You have C.J. Gardner-Johnson coming over from the Super Bowl champion Eagles. And Jalen Petrie comes back from his torn pectoral. This secondary could be dynamite. Take it away for us, Troy, the Houston Texans.
God, Dennis, DG in chat's catching my attention right now. Division winner odds minus 105. Is that too big of a gift? I love the coaching staff. You got D'Amico. I love what he's done with his personnel. Let the front four apply pressure. Don't overthink it. Just let the front four apply pressure. Wide range of stunts. Runs a bunch of beautiful stunts on the defensive line. Let the great secondary that they have play coverage and play base D 80% of snaps. Throw a fastball 80% of the time, then throw a curveball every now and then. That's D'Amico Ryans. I love that with this personnel that he has. Nick Caley, great hire from the McVay branch. I love that. I don't have a reason to think he won't be successful, but, we shall see. Surprises are abundant in the NFL. The problem is with this whole with this Texans team is the offensive line, and I just cannot get over it. They were terrible last season. Now they lose Tunsil Mason, like you said. If Caley can represent, or I don't know how to pronounce the name, Caley can replicate what McVay does and relieve the pressure off the offensive line with motion, with misdirection, with a quick passing game, then I would expect this offensive line to be just fine. But it's really unfortunate that they didn't get better in this category to really round out their roster, because everywhere else, running back, receiver, obviously I'm a believer in Stroud. I think he's capable of achieving top 5 status, but not behind this O-line. Very reliant on big plays, which he always seems to get as a thing. It's like you look at him on film, you're like, okay, we got to defend the deep play. We got to defend Nico Collins running a freaking post. A skinny post, but he runs it and Stroud throws it on the money. I think that this team should have beaten the Chiefs in the first round of the playoffs. And I would make a strong case that they certainly should have. If it wasn't for one terrible, despicable, grotesque call. I think that this offense will be okay. My big question is with this offensive line again, and that's sad to say when you got a quarterback the likes of CJ Stroud, but at the same time, you got to look within their division. Titans, Colts, Jags. Really? Minus 105? What are we talking about here? Because you look at this defense, Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter is one of the best edge combos in the league. And Will Anderson is one of those guys right up there with Myles Garrett, right up there with Aiden Hutchinson. Impacts the offensive scheme. They're prepping to defend. Right, they're prepping to block these two. It instantly boosts the performance of the entire defensive line. The linebackers, like you said, Elshair is one of my favorite guys. Nothing but respect for this guy, despite what he's done. One of the best run defenders in the NFL, despite the PFF grade. I think he's one of the best linebackers in the NFL. And Otu improved year over year. But I want to see him, step it up one more notch in the secondary. It's probably, closer to number 1 overall, but definitely top 5. And they acquired C.J. Gardner in the offseason, Jalen Petrie in the slot, Lassiter and Stingley at corner. Second to none. Absolutely second to none, especially considering they have to defend or cover for less than anybody else does in the NFL because they got 2 of the best pass rushers in the game. This team is a team that got robbed in the playoffs, 9.5. I'm not sure. The division at minus 105 looks way too appetizing. Looks way too good to me. Is everything too good to be true?
The market doesn't think they're going to win 10 games. The market thinks they're going to go 9-8. What if they go 5-1 in the division?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot to think about from a future standpoint. Probably to the point where I'm not going to bet it. It's just like I just feel like we're not going to have a lot of great opportunities to bet this team throughout the season, unlike the Browns or like some of the other teams we talked about, the Jets, the Patriots, like where I'm not going to be sad about not getting in on them early with the future. This is a team I don't think we're going to have great opportunities to. You look at their record, you look at their schedule, you look at their division. It's like minus 105 just seems way too good to be true.
The Rams are minus 2.5 in week 1 at home against the Texans.
Yep.
Not even a field goal.
That makes sense to me. I think the Rams are really good though.
But they're saying on a neutral field, Texans would be tiny
plus one
or a half, tiny favorites.
Rams is basically especially in Los Angeles, like that's like basically no added points at all, almost. Like
that's true.
Or less. I shouldn't say that. I should say less than the average.
Less than average, yeah. I'm excited about Tuesday. I know we're gonna have sat with this information for 48 hours. This one, I don't feel like it's minus 105. Who is their biggest threat? And you'd have to say it's the team that we are talking about next, and that is the Indianapolis Colts. Let's roll into the Colts. Shane Steichen, 3rd season. Offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter, 3rd season. And in comes Lou Anarumo. He replaces Gus Bradley. So he was the defensive coordinator for 6 years for the Bengals. AM says it's the Jaguars, not the Colts. These Colts are plus 375 to win the division. Their win total's at 7.5. And they are 125-1, plus 12,500 to win the Super Bowl. They have not made the playoffs since 2020. Daniel Jones has been named the starting quarterback, beating out Anthony Richardson. And I get it. I get it. Because when it comes down to it, do I want my quarterback to make the simple reads and the simple plays? Or do I want him to make the extraordinary plays? And it's the simple plays and the simple reads. I want those taken care of, and Richardson can't do that. He has a career 50.6 completion rate, 11 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. And if you want to go to the adjusted completion rate, it's the lowest among qualified quarterbacks at 60.2. But what's his big-time throw rate? It's top 5 in the NFL over the last 2 years. I don't care. So I get why Dimes is in there. Not that I have that high hopes for him, but I do believe that over this experience failing in New York, I think there's a chance that he can succeed to some extent here. And he's got weapons. Number 1 wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. returns. He had the back injury. It didn't require surgery. That's important. And he's healthy and he's ready to go. Josh Downs missed 3 games due to ankle and shoulder injuries. In the second, he had better numbers in the second season. We expect him to be a focal point. Alec Pierce is a deep threat. In 2022, he had only 37 catches. And he was 2022 second round pick. This past year, he had 37 catches, just 37 catches in 2024, but 22.3 yards per reception. I think Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, and Alec Pierce are a very underrated trio of receivers at Dimes' disposal. Josh Downs finished 2024 with an 85.1 PFF receiving grade. That was 11th best in the NFL. Pittman Jr. has earned at least a 70 PFF grade in 4 straight years. And Pierce ranked 11th in the NFL. He had a 99.1 deep PFF receiving grade last year. These guys are very, very strong. Jonathan Taylor was excellent last year, 1,431 yards, second highest total of his career with 11 touchdowns. They draft Tyler Warren, 14th overall, out of Penn State. Coin talking about him right now. he is, immediately going to play this crucial role. Immediately. The RPO game he's going to be a huge part of. Then Bernard Raymond gets a $100 million contract over the past 2 seasons. He's 7th among qualified tackles with a PFF overall grade of 87.9. Now, they did lose 2 starters on that offensive line. So Tanner Bortolini and Matt Goncalves have at center right guard are going to have to step up in a big way. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. Braden Smith. Look, all his mental health issues are about the meaning of life. And all he needed was someone to sit with him and be like, why don't we figure this out after your football career? Because there's no fucking meaning, Braden. There's none. Why don't we go play some football, make some money for your family, and have a good time? And I expect the mental health issues that have affected Braden Smith to sort of go away. I watched a bunch of his interviews. Look, he's dealing with stuff that it's okay. A lot of religious people deal with that. A lot of religious people are like, why am I here? Why am I? I think he's going to have a really strong season, Braden Smith, this year. Their defense was bad last year. And I don't think that Anarumo can fix it. But Gus Bradley was trash. The Colts were 24th in scoring defense, 29th in total defense. And the interesting thing is, with all of these problems, they allowed 361.2 yards per game. They had 16 interceptions. But that unit was 26th in passing yards allowed. So what do? They signed Charvarius Ward, 3-year, $54 million contract, $35 million guaranteed. They signed Cam Bynum, 4-year, $60 million, $30 million guaranteed for the safety. They have a defensive line anchored by DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart. Their pass rush numbers weren't good. 36 sacks weren't good. They were tied for 25th, but we know what Buckner's capable of. In 5 years, his last 5 years in Indianapolis, he's 5th at the position in PFF overall grade. He's only behind Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, Dexter Lawrence, and Cameron Hayward. The Colts picked up the option on Kwity Paye, 26.5 sacks in 4 years, 2021 first-round pick. Zaire Franklin has 352 tackles and 5 sacks, 7 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions the last 2 seasons. But he doesn't get help. We know that Zaire Franklin gets no help. He's alone out there tackling everything in sight. This Colts team, they could be good. And I have a problem. The Colts are in the Bengals boat. For me, I find it pretty easy to figure out a way to back them. I'm a Shane Steichen believer. I'm interested in the over 7.5 wins, honestly. Take it away, Troy.
I'm right there with you. We talked about him last year, Steichen. This is a guy I completely and utterly believe in. He runs by the figure of speed: throw to score, run to win. And I can't agree with that more. I love it. Struggled last year, but absolutely nothing went right for this team. Couldn't seem to cater to a young AR-15 despite history with a great read option and RPO. This was a team last year during our Futures episode. We were both bullish on this team, and I just think things didn't fall into place. And I can't tell if it's personnel, because I know Steichen has shown that he has the ability to succeed in the league with clever, intuitive play calling. Now we have Lou Anarumo as the defensive coordinator, and he's self-described defense is what I talked about earlier with someone else, is the amoeba type of defense, constantly adapting. It was put on full display in 2021 in the conference championship game versus Kansas City, where he went from a drop, basically after the first half, he came out and ran drop 8 or all out blitz. It was engage 8 or drop 8 every single down. And it just shows you that he's willing to adjust. He's not too stubborn. If something ain't working, he will adjust. I love to see that out of a play caller. The offensive line, I think, is going to be elite. Raymond, Nelson, like you said with Braden Smith, I don't know. I haven't seen any information like you have on him. He had a completely down year from what we've seen historically from him. So I can only assume that he's going to be able to rise to the occasion. You got Bortolini at center, who's from Wisconsin, only played like 400 snaps last year. graded out as a 65 per PFF, but has upside potential. And then you've got Matt Conclaves, another rookie, another guy in his second year. I think there's a lot of upside for this offensive line. I think they are a top 10 unit. I think we see that come to fruition this year. Jonathan Taylor, Khalil Herbert at the running back position is more than enough, at least average. All I want to know is the running back, at least average, yes or no? If yes, move on to the next category. Wide receiver. You talked about it. Pierce is an ultimate deep threat. He's from Illinois. He's a kid that actually went to school where I live now. I grew up on the south side, but I'm in the Naperville land area right now, and he went to school right down the block from me. I know a lot about this kid. I've watched him. I have friends that were friends with him or friends with his brother, who's a great athlete himself. Downs is an underneath option, and Pittman, who can do it all. So you have a great mixture of talent at the wide receiver position. Now you add Tyler Warren in the offseason, and I think his talent will translate well. So Danny Jones, Danny Dimes, what do we expect from this guy? Terrible situation. He goes from one of the worst offensive lines to one of the best offensive lines. In my opinion, this is one of the better offensive lines in the league. I think he's getting put into a good situation, good play caller, good offensive line, good talent at wide receiver, and depth at wide receiver. Because you go from only having Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson are average at best.
I have a question that I want to ask right now. Joe Flacco or Danny Dimes?
Danny Dimes.
So if that's the case, if you think Danny Dimes over Joe Flacco, how do they not cash the over 7.5 wins? Danny Dimes is the right choice over Anthony Richardson.
I think so.
If you can't make the simple plays, how is the team supposed to succeed? I don't need you to throw a 45-yard bomb. I need you to convert 3rd and 4. Yes. Without running. I know, and look, he can convert those with running, but remember when he took himself out of the game? I mean, this guy, you can't I don't think he's going to have a career as an NFL quarterback, Anthony Richardson.
I think this is actually a very comparable team. Like, this is a good corollary to the Browns, but the Browns are in a much better division, and that's reflected in the total 7.5, 4.5. Damn, that's kind of making me want to move on the Indianapolis Colts in this division.
Plus 375 is probably not the risk reward to beat the Texans, honestly. Wouldn't you want a little bit more than that? But maybe it's a sign that they're live.
It's so hard to tell, man. This is why I struggle with futures. I study week-to-week markets. I don't study futures markets, so it's really hard for me to be able to delineate, really get a good read on the lines. But you look at the offense, I see nothing but high ceiling. You look at the defense, I see nothing but high ceiling. Obviously, you got a D-line that has top 10 potential. PFF got him at 17th. I couldn't disagree more. 3 first-round picks, all of them quality. Some of them have had their struggles, but they've put quality tape together where they've made plays for elite offensive linemen. Like, I'm thinking about, oh my God, Kwity Paye. Kwity Paye is really the question for me from Michigan. First-round pick in 2021. 4 years later, and he's pretty much grading out the same way every single year. Could he take a next step up? I think he could. And Latu, I think is going to be elite. I mean, he was a first-round pick last year. Came out, posted a 72.1 in his first year. Great pass rusher. Couldn't stop the run. I can't confirm that with my own eyes, but really quality defender. And then the defensive backfield, Charvarius Ward, the addition of that's huge. Bynum, yeah. There's a lot to like about this Colts team.
I think you know what? I think I'll know exactly what I'm going to do after we break down the next 2 teams in this division. Because AM's high on the Jags. We need to talk this out because the Colts are plus 375 to win the division. The Jags are plus 300. The Jags 7.5 is at a pick'em. The Colts is juiced to the under. So the market is agreeing with AM's take that the Jags are the bigger issue here. 80-1 to win the Super Bowl, plus 300 for the division. They went 4-13 last year. We have the first season under Liam Cohen. You have a 29-year-old offensive coordinator in Grant Udinski, a 29-year-old.
No.
You're a defensive coordinator in the first season here. Your defensive coordinator, Anthony Campanelli. So you have such a young group, young general manager, such a young group. And it's very difficult for me to back them. The question, of course, is, when will Trevor Lawrence unlock this potential? His worst passing performance since his rookie season. That's what he's coming off of. He had a career low 70% adjusted completion rate. He has to be better. They trade up 3 spots to select Travis Hunter. No offense to Travis Hunter, but I don't see the benefit of trading up the 3 spots. Travis Hunter can completely prove me wrong, but they're focused on him as a wide receiver right now. He's going to play 2 ways. Maybe they just needed, another opportunity to sell tickets, possibly. But Brian Thomas Jr. has the ability to be a great receiver. He has that ability. His 83.4 PFF receiving grade was 19th among qualified wide receivers and 3rd among rookies. So he was behind Malik Neighbors and Ladd McConkey. They signed De'Ami Brown in free agency from Washington. He's a deep threat. Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne have not been good enough. I'm tired of waiting for Travis Etienne to be an elite running back. I don't think he has it in him. Now, they revamped their offensive line. Thank God they signed Robert Hainsey. Let me get this here. They signed Robert Hainsey and left guard Patrick McCarry. So they signed Hainsey out of Tampa Bay, McCarry out of Baltimore. That's important. They're going to have Ezra Cleveland at left guard, Walker Little at left tackle, right tackle, Anton Harrison. That's improved. This defense was terrible last year. Terrible. Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen should be one of the best edge tandems in the league. Should be. Now you have Eric Armstead starting at right tackle. That's his natural position. We watched him crush there for 9 years as a Niner. Hines-Allen, Jaguars' highest graded defensive player. His 83.4 pass grade ranks him 11th among qualified edge defenders. Foye Oluokun is, strong against the run. Tyson Campbell is a top player in the secondary, but he isn't even you're praying he's going to stay healthy. He's questionable for week 1. This team ranked 26th in PFF coverage grade. The safeties ranked last. I think the Colts are a much more dangerous team than the Jaguars. But I could be wrong, and I'm all ears. Troy, take it away, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I agree with you. Liam Cohen is an offensive mind that I want to believe in, but being able to call the shots as a head coach is a different story. It pairs really well with Udinski, who will be able to mix and match different concepts. And Udinski from the O'Donnell branch, high potential in my opinion. To become the best, you have to learn from the best and you have to beat the best. And he certainly learned from the best. So there's one box checked. And I don't know what to think of this defensive coordinator. I don't have much information on him. I did a little bit of digging. I need to do a lot more. We'll see what comes of Anthony Campanile. The offense, and here's the problem with the Jags every season, why I've came in here after 2023 where we backed them pretty much every week, if I remember correctly, in 2023, 2024, I wanted to fade them, and it's because their offensive line is terrible. The absolute ceiling is average for this unit. Another year, just like the Seahawks, more offensive line issues. It's like a broken Reddit record. Can good coaching relieve the pressure from this offensive line that's clearly below the talent grade that you need to be successful in the NFL? Not one mentionable player on the front is not a good sign. I agree with you on Etienne. After showing promise in his freshman year, he looked terrible in year 3. Another group with a ceiling that I think is average. Then we get to the wide receiver position, and there's some question marks here because you got Travis Hunter, who needs to focus on one side of the ball. You got this game has grown too much to be able to play both ways. Just put that shit behind you, grow up, play wide receiver or play cornerback. You're not going to be able to play both and do it successfully. You're going to fail miserably. Jack of all trades or master of none. This is the NFL. He's going to fail if he tries to do both. And I think we've seen some clips out of him in camp that says that's exactly what's going to happen here. Brian Thomas, proven commodity, future all-star after his rookie season, in my opinion, and just raw talent, is able to get in and out of breaks extremely fast, great ball skills. And my favorite thing about Brian Thomas is his ability and his effort to stack the defensive back after he passes him on a go route. I don't see anybody do it like he does it because he completely replaces him. I mean, it's beautiful, the technique he does have. And I don't know if it's natural or if it's taught, if it's coached, but Brian Thomas is going to be an all-star. Trevor Lawrence, I flipped from a believer to a non-believer in this guy. How many times can we see this guy miss routine throws, routine flat routes, routine, stop routes, zig routes, hot reads, just short passing that he cannot connect with. I mean, I feel like he hasn't shown the ability to identify coverages. He's easily muddled, a little bit like timid. It almost seems like when you throw a wrinkle in the defensive scheme. I'm not a believer in Trevor Lawrence anymore. So what is there like about this offense? Brian Thomas? I guess that's all I got personally. And this is after, if you rewind and Jimmy, if you posted my record from the first season of this show where I was roughly plus 40 units of profit, I was back in the Jags week in and week out. Now I'm completely out. And I was backing them because of the offense. Now they do have some upside in defense, but I was backing them because I seen upside with this offense. And now I don't see it anymore. And I don't know what happened with Trevor Lawrence, but he's not the same quarterback we've seen over the past few years. And the defense definitely has attractive personnel. The D-line, like PFF has this team graded out as 29th, and I couldn't disagree more. I don't know where they came up with that from, but I feel like the two, maybe two of the best, on the edge with Trayvon Walker and Hines Allen they're elite. And then you got Tariq Armstead on the interior. What are they looking at? They got no depth. One injury or NASCAR scheme could change things completely from like what we could expect from this defensive front. But this defensive front is solid. Devin Lloyd, another first-round draft pick and proven to be one of the top 10 linebackers in the league. But we got depth issues. So you got depth issues on the D-line, depth issues on the linebacker. And then you got a secondary that, can they stay healthy? Tyson Campbell. I remember watching him in 2023. He was an island boy. Can he return to form? I'm not sure. Because now he's questionable again, like you said, heading into week one. Jordan Lewis is a great coverage slot cornerback, but I prefer my slot to be able to play in the box. Look at all the other great slot cornerbacks in the league. Cooper, DeJean, the Youngblood, Tyke Smith from the Bucs. They're able to play in the box. They're able to play against the run. Jordan Lewis is the complete opposite. He wants nothing to do with anything physical. Physicality is not his game. So I guess like you look at Wingard at safety, I don't know what to like. There's nothing to like about the secondary. There's really not much to like about the linebacker group. Devin Lloyd's good, but there's no depth. That's what I'm saying. A couple injuries, and this team's going to get. It's a steep fall from grace. There's really no grace here, but I don't want to be able to. I don't want to be on the board the Jags train here. I'm not going to be boarding it. You look at this offensive line. That's the call. That's it for me. Like I'm out. I see this offensive line. I want no action on this team pre-flop.
This is probably. I need to think about. I'm going to say it, and then I need to think about this over the next while. But their general manager is 34 years old. He's the youngest general manager in the NFL. Their head coach is 39. Their offensive coordinator is 29. So Anthony Campanelli, their defensive coordinator, I think he's 41. He's the oldest I was. If this young group, very, very young group, can come in and turn this team around in a few months, then football is easy. And it's not. And I find it impossible to believe that a 29-year-old offensive coordinator and a 34-year-old general manager can turn this franchise around in a couple months. Now, I need to think about that statement. And I need to think about it, study them a little more. Because they've
Where
all...
are the wins, Jimmy? You say that now I'm even more bullish on taking an under team total here. Where are their wins? At home versus Carolina? I don't think that's an easy just mark it off as a win. On the road at Cincinnati, Houston, San Francisco, Kansas City, Seattle, Los Angeles. Where is this team's wins? At the last game of the season versus Tennessee, I guess, the Titans.
I'm going to go over, all of the spots where I have asterisks beside. I'm going to go over them like with a fine-tooth comb exactly, where I think the wins will come from. There is no second most complicated sport. The most complicated sport is football. It's chess with violence. There's no second. Everything is simple beside football. And if a 29-year-old offensive coordinator and a 34-year-old general manager can turn a franchise that went 4-13 last year and turn them around in 3 months, I will send the money not only to my bookie, but to them. I'll double down and send it to them too. Not they give a fuck, but I find it impossible to believe. Impossible to believe. And I need to think about that longer. And on Tuesday, I'll come with a definitive plan. But if that's the case, that some 20-somethings, early 30s can just turn a franchise around like that, well, it must be pretty easy. Must be pretty fucking easy. We know that's not the case. So
I don't see it. Mark me down. I'm moving on it.
I expect to be on it as well.
400 right now on the under 7.5 minus 108.
I like it. And I expect to be on it as well. But I'm going to spend a little bit more time on it. Let's roll on to our next team here in the South. We have the Tennessee Titans, 3-14. They are 200 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. They're 8 to 1 to win the division. And their win total is at 5.5, minus 155 to the over and plus 125 to the under. AM says the Jags have an easy schedule, and I'll study it more, but I just find it impossible to believe that they're going to make the most complicated sport in the entire world really simple and easy. Watch what we do and turn this franchise around in fucking 3 months.
And Doug Peterson, I would have to imagine Doug Peterson would mesh better with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence looked terrible, man. And I don't know what his reads are from left to right, what his first read is, what his second read is. I don't know that to be a fact, but I know that many times I watched film on this guy and he missed what I would perceive to be the first read of a play, and he would move on too quick. I
can't believe they think Bigsby and Etienne are going to take pressure off of him. I must fade. But I haven't done it yet, and we'll confirm everything on Tuesday. Let's talk about these Titans. Their win total at 5.5, heavily juiced to the over. AM says, did you have this opinion before last season?
My opinion on the Jags before last season was I wanted to bet on them. I bet on them maybe one of my highest bet teams in 2023 on this show. And 2024, I came in from week one, and our first show, I talked about fading this team for the same reasons. The only time I backed them was against the Bills in London, and they cashed, but it was because of the line. I wouldn't have bet on it if it wasn't for the bullish ass line movement that I always bet on that we're seeing in the Browns game.
Yeah, through the 6, and I certainly didn't feel that way because there's all first year coaches, first year coordinators, first year general managers.
That put me over the top. Joe. That angle.
Well, yeah, and I'll put my money where my mouth is, but I need to solidify that because I didn't come in thinking that. That's something that kind
Me
of.
neither. Me neither.
We have Brian Callahan here in his second season as head coach of the Tennessee Titans. Nick Holtz in his second season as offensive coordinator of the Titans. And Denard Wilson in his second season, the Callahan crew, all entering their second season. And Cam Ward, the new face of the franchise. So the Titans have not succeeded in a first-round quarterback since Steve McNair in 95. Aaron McNair, third overall. That was the Oilers back then. Since then, they've drafted 3 quarterbacks in the first round. Vince Young, Jake Locker, and Marcus Mariota. Now, none of them have been a number 1 overall pick, and that's what we're dealing with here. They have attempted to fortify their offensive line. They signed Pittsburgh Steelers left tackle Dan Moore Jr., and they got Zeitler, Kevin Zeitler. 2024 first rounder J.C. Latham, who played at Alabama, moves to right tackle. That's where he played at Alabama. That should help. And it should help Ward. So this should be a real quality group. There was an idea that Cushenberry was not going to be available, at least until halfway through the year. He coming off the Achilles injury. He is ready to go right now. So you have Cushenberry, Moore, and Zeitler. And then you have 2 first-round picks in Skoronski and Latham. All of a sudden, this is a very quality offensive line all of a sudden. And the coach of that offensive line is Brian's dad, Bill. This offensive line could be really good. Now, I love that Bill Callahan is coaching the offensive line. Maybe I'm kind of looking at it through rose-colored glasses. They traded away DeAndre Hopkins. Also, Westbrook Akine was taken in free agency. So who have they added to Calvin Ridley? Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson. Ugh, that is a weak group. I'm a Tyler Lockett fan, and he's done. Van Jefferson does not look good. Can Calvin Ridley be a WR1? That's a weak group. Now you have Tony Pollard, who's been a monster. 260 carries, 1,079 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, 238 receiving yards. He was great. Tajay Spears was supposed to share the workload with Pollard, but he suffered a high ankle sprain in that preseason opener against the Bucs. It's a bad one. He's been placed on injured reserve. He's going to miss at least the first 4 games. So Julius Chestnut has had this great camp, and he's the backup. He ran 22 times for 102 yards last year. He was also returning kickoffs. Now, he was a monster at Sacred Heart, but far away from Sacred Heart, man. And then they have this 6th-round pick out of Michigan, Mullings. 6'2", 226-pounder. He was transitioned from linebacker to running back, and he is going to bring size and power and all this, but he has an ankle injury. So he's probably not playing week 1. So Tajay Spears is not playing week 1. You don't have this guy Mullings who's just going to, crash and bang. So now Julius Chestnut, who's had this great camp supposedly, is going to have to, probably get 8 to 10 carries week 1. Defensively, the pass rush is going to be a problem. This defense looks weak. Not only do they not have a pass rush, but they allowed 133.9 rushing yards per game. That was 26th in the NFL. Remember when the season started? And we're like, oh, no, you can't run on the Titans. How fast did that go away? By game 4, game 5, we're like, oh, my God, they're terrible. Remember that they were number 1 ranked there for a little bit, and then it just fell apart. Jeffrey Simmons, Devondre Sweat were bad. They need to do more. They only got 5 games from L'Jarius Sneed last year in this first in Tennessee. Supposedly he's healthy and good to go.
God, he looks so bad.
This team, this team's going to be bad. This team's going to be bad. Take it away, Troy. Tennessee Titans.
I feel like it's so hard to formulate an opinion that's not that this team is going to be bad. Outside of their offensive line with some potential, they need their first round picks to elevate with Latham and Cushenberry. But they were terrible last season, and I do expect them to move up the ladder a little bit, but it's just hard to believe that you just acquire Zietler and then it turns this offensive line into a unit that could actually feast when you take into account. And here's the problem with all of it is I'm thinking about this offensive line in the context of Levis as their quarterback. Things have changed, right, with the rookie quarterback now with Cam Ward and his expectations in the NFL. But at the same time, he's still a rookie quarterback under Nick Foles, who offense graded out as 31st in the NFL. The offensive line was 25th or lower since, over the past 3 years. Last year was a bad personnel, was a bad play calling. Was the quarterback just trash? Possibly. Who knows? It's really hard to make heads or tails of this offense. But one thing I will say is the running back position. I think I would like to make a stat that's X yards. I want to know the expected yards per carry for Tony Pollard because I feel like he's missed a lot of reads where he would bounce it too early, not stick, not stay disciplined, not be patient in the hole. And that's one thing that I would – and here's the thing. It's like I'm doing this in the context of my perception when I don't know what the scheme of the play is, but you could tell there was definitely plays where like he should have stuck into the 4-5 holes in between the tackles and he would bounce it way too early and maybe pick up 1 or 2 when he should have had 4 or 5. I feel like I've seen it way too often. I'm not a believer in this offense. Van Jefferson, old man Lockett, good addition, but doesn't really bring much to the table at this point in his career. So Calvin Ridley, like this offense is going to be bad unless Cam Ward is just some generational talent, which he could very well be, but he's not coming into a great situation. The defense, like you touched on this defense, pretty much I'm right in line with you. The defensive line with Simmons, Sweat, Day, Arden, Key, highly capable defensive line, no doubt will be their strong suit, but still a lot of question marks there after what they put on film last season. And then it's like L'Jarius Sneed went from being the most incredible slot corner I've ever seen to the worst graded cornerback or, secondary player in the NFL. And it was only a small sample, but at the same time, like, what can we expect from this team? What do we know to be true? I don't know that we know anything to be true with this team. This is a complete pass. Questionable coaching, terrible offensive line, lack of weapons. This is a pass. This is a pass for me, Jim. I'm not interested in anything on the future front.
But if we think the Jags and the Titans are going to be bad again, that means the Colts get over their win total. And talk out of camp for Tennessee is, and I don't mean, I think Cam Ward could be great, but they're saying that they're seeing a lot of the same mistakes that Levis makes, that there's a lot of, throwing across their body, throwing across the field. The Cam Ward's going for big plays and taking risks that will get you in huge trouble in the NFL. And they're trying to cut it down the risks. And they're trying to show him tape of what Levis did. And they're saying, you did that. You just did that today. And they're trying to show him that he's making the same mistakes that Levis made. And look what Levis does now.
Really? They're using Levis as a corollary. Like, really? Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not going to sit here and take the under on both the Titans and the Jags. I don't think you take unders on two teams in one division. I think it's very dangerous. But I think it leads me to bet the over on the Colts. But I wanted to initially already. But you know what? I didn't really. I was trying to think about the Dimes and Anthony Richardson thing, and I think I've got there. Coin says Ward went from Incarnate Word to Wazoo to the U to number 1 pick. The kid does have something there. He's a gamer. There's no doubt about it. And I think this offensive line is going to be better than everyone. I'm a Cushenberry fan. I love that he came back early. You don't see that much. So lots of work to do. Let's talk about our final division here, the AFC West. Thank you guys so much for rocking with us here. It's been a long night, but very crucial to our success. We start with the Kansas City Chiefs, 15-2 last year, plus 850 to win the Super Bowl, minus 110 to win the division, and 11.5 juice to the under is their win total. Andy Reid in his 13th season as head coach of the Chiefs, Matt Nagy in his 3rd season as offensive coordinator, and Steve Spagnuolo in his 7th season as defensive coordinator. Chiefs look for their 10th straight AFC West title. With Mahomes as their starting quarterback, they've never been eliminated before the AFC final. It's insane. Now, there's different ways of looking at their 12-0 record in one-score games last season. You could say that they were very lucky. You could also say that they were the best situational football team in the league. I think there's truth to both. What we do know was that Mahomes was running for his life last year. He was sacked 36 times, 11 more in the playoffs, and 6 in the Super Bowl. They have Creed Humphrey, and they're lucky. Among centers to play at least 300 snaps in 2024, his 92.4 PFF overall grade was better than the next closest player by more than 6 points. That's how good he is. He's locked in long term. They used the franchise tag on Trey Smith at right guard. So Joe Thuney had to go. When you pay Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith that kind of money, somebody has to go. Joe Thuney goes, and they can't be as good on their offensive line. There's just, without Joe Thuney, they can't be. Now they have 2024 second-round pick Kingsley Suamataia. He's supposed to start at left guard. There was talk that Mike Caliendo would take left guard. It sounds like they're both going to play. Big Zo says fading Kelsey in 2024 is profitable. I'm not doing that this year. It's a very different season. This is his final season. I mean, I think he's going to cherish every moment on that field, and I think he's going to really push hard. I'm not going to take his under receiving yards. And the only reason why I cashed the under last year was because he didn't play the final game. He was actually right there. I was pretty fortunate. Left tackle is a concern, so they drafted Ohio State's Josh Simmons in the first round. Their offensive line should be strong again. Mahomes hasn't thrown more than 30 touchdown passes since 2022. Rashee Rice suspended for 6 games to the hit and run car crash in Dallas. Hollywood Brown missed most of 2024, and he comes back. Xavier Worthy is a beast. I don't know how much Juju Smith-Schuster has left. We just talked about Kelsey. He's entering his final year, which we expect his final year. He hasn't confirmed that yet, I don't believe, but he had 97 catches for 823 yards. I think the total I had was 850.5, and he didn't play the final game. I was lucky. Noah Gray had a career year in 5 touchdown catches. Pacheco and Kareem Hunt are the running back group. They averaged 3.7 yards per carry last year. Now they add Elijah Mitchell. I'm not sure how much run he's going to get. The Chiefs are in the second highest PFF defensive grade in the NFL. The only team that was better than them, Super Bowl champ, Philadelphia Eagles. And they returned everybody. I mean, Chris Jones, Nick Bolton, Trent McDuffie. And we know what Spagnuolo does. He's incredible. Chris Jones and George Karlaftis, 48. They combined for 48 quarterback hits last season. Chris Jones led all interior defenders with 88 pressures, including the postseason. 91.5 PFF pass rush grade, trailed only Milton Williams. Philadelphia's Milton Williams, not there anymore. Mike Pennell was released. That was a surprise. Mike Dana does return. Mike Pennell was released a few days ago. It was a surprise. Didn't make the 53-man roster. Nick Bolton is the guy who handles the play calling for Spagnuolo. Signed a 3-year, $45 million deal. They signed veteran cornerback Christian Fulton They moved up in the 3rd round to sign cornerback Noel Williams. And that's going to allow Trent McDuffie to move back into the slot, where he's going to be very, very dangerous, very, very good. We all love hearing you talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Troy, Torrence, take it away.
Oh, man, I don't even know where to start with this team anymore. I really don't. Last year I talked about the inevitable down season bear market for this team, and I think we were supposed to have it last season, but it never came, and it was because of all those one-possession games where the team would muff a kick or whatever, or there would be a fumble, a bad call, the mob shit would come through, and this Kansas City Chiefs team would advance on and win, and it's just gross because they didn't deserve any of the success they had last year. That's my personal opinion based on my 2 eyes. I do think that the coaching staff is undeniable. Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo. Spags is one of the most brilliant defensive minds in the game. And the scheme, the approach, it doesn't change, but the packages and the alignments always do. Disguised coverage, disguised blitzes. And he has the ability to call the pressure at the exact right moment when to call the play. So you got to give a lot of credit to this defense because I think he's operating with a defense that's subpar, but he elevates them like the linebackers Chanel and Bolton, 2 unsung heroes of this defense. Chanel, the jack of all trades, can cover a great quarterback spy, and sorry, I misspoke there. Bolton, who's quarterback spy, fantastic against the run, perfect scrape technique, and never over pursues. This is a well-coached defense. The defensive line headlined by Chris Jones. The whole entire defense is headlined by Chris Jones, who's just an absolute problem for anybody to deal with on any given. He's the number 1 overall interior defensive lineman in the NFL. I mean, it's unparalleled what he's doing on the interior defensive line, and he elevates everybody around him. So the defensive line should be decent. The secondary is quality, and I think all of this kind of ties back into Spagnuolo. The defense is – I'm bullish on the defense still. The offense is where I – continue to have problems. I talked about Mahomes. I mean, he's clearly right now slated as the 2nd best QB to ever live and on pace to be the number 1 overall best quarterback to ever live. However, his numbers just continue to drop over the past few years, and I've read out all the numbers multiple times on this show, but I think we could kind of be in for a dead cat bounce, and you could see it in his demeanor in the preseason games. And it just, when he interacts with media, I get the feeling like he's more locked in than we've seen him last year. I'm just going to compare year over year because that's really where my focus is right now. I think he's way more locked in than he was heading into last season. The offensive line, I still have a lot of concerns with. I mean, it's really going to come down to how Josh Simmons, is he going to be able to develop, be inserted, and be a quality, above average defense or offensive lineman in his first year? That's really the question with this offensive line, because right now I have him slated to be around the 20th best offensive line in the NFL. I think you might be a little bit more bullish, and maybe I'm biased on this team. That's why I'm kind of grasping at straws here right now, because I don't know where to go with this team right now. I expected the bear market to happen last year for this team. It didn't happen. Now I see Mahomes, who I do believe is a really, really good quarterback, probably one of the best quarterbacks to ever live. I see him back locked in. Talk about Travis Kelce. I don't know where to go with this team, Jimmy. I'm not going to lie to you, but it's easy to succeed when you have the mob on your side in perpetuity. I would expect that to remain true this season. And I'm heavily concerned about how this team is going to perform in the trenches, even with on the defensive side. I mean, how long could Chris Jones demand all the attention he does? And based on the numbers, I think he'll be able to do it again, but only time will tell. I don't know what to do with this team, Jim. I'm not going to lie. I don't know what to say because I've led people in the wrong direction with this team before. I don't want to do it again.
Are you interested in backing them or fading them against the Chargers in week 1 in Brazil?
I want to fade them, but I haven't. I just want to stay away from this team right now. I probably won't be betting it. But actually, you know what? I will definitely be betting that game because it's a standalone game. I'll definitely have action on it. It's probably going to be on the Chargers.
The Chiefs win total 11.5 juice to the under. You can get the 10.5 juice to the over, and it's going to be a lot of fun capping them all year. My dude says the worst O-line behind Mahomes since he's been a starter for KC. All right, let's roll on. Next up, we have the LA Chargers, 11-6, 25-1 to win the Super Bowl, 3-1 to win the division, and their win totals at 9.5 juice to the under. Second season for Jim Harbaugh as head coach. Second season for Greg Roman as offensive coordinator. Second season for Jesse Minter to be defensive coordinator. Chargers haven't won a playoff game since the 2018 season, but there's hope. 5-12 in 2023. Jim Harbaugh came in, turned the ship around, 11-6, and make the playoffs. Herbert simply didn't have enough weapons, and he still set career highs in PFF passing grade. Ladd McConkey was the standout lone 1,000-yard receiver and a dynamic slot threat. He looked very good. 85.0 PFF receiving grade that ranked second among rookie wide receivers and 12th in the NFL. Quentin Johnson improved in year 2, but God, 21st overall pick in 2023 has got to do more. Keenan Allen returns to the squad. The team spent a second-round pick on Ole Miss standout Trey Harris. He led the FBS with 128.8 receiving yards per game. They add veteran tight end Tyler Conklin. He started 15 games for the Jets in 2024, and he'll be sharing opportunities with Will Dissly. The Chargers ranked 29th in PFF rushing grade, 27th in yards after contact per carry, and 27th in explosive run rate last season. So they let journeyman J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards go. And they bring in Najee Harris and first-round pick Omarion Hampton. Unfortunately, they lost Rashawn Slater for the season with the tear to the patellar tendon. That's just a devastating loss. So he will not be able to line up beside Joe Alt, the 5th overall pick, phenom. Joe Alt will take over at left tackle. They did sign Mekhi Becton in the offseason. Run blocking was a real problem last year. We'll see if that changes this year. Joey Bosa leaves the team after 9 years. Khalil Mack and Denzel Perryman got real nice, real friendly one-year deals for the team. Khalil Mack is a monster. 5th among qualified edge defenders with a 90.2 PFF overall grade. 2nd behind TJ Watt in PFF run defense grade at 87.7. Diane Henley and Tuli Tuipulotu were big and important. Henley was in the top 10 in NFL in tackles. Tuipulotu led the team in sacks at 8.5. And there's an expectation that they'll both be all pros this year. They lose Poona Ford and Morgan Fox up front, and that hurts. They return one proven line contributor, that TR Tart. Poona Ford stops the run. It's a big loss. They're thin up front now. Their outstanding secondary, number 2 ranking in PFF coverage grade last season. But cornerback is a concern. Asante Samuel and Christian Fulton leave. They bring in Dante Jackson and Benjamin St. Juste, but they have Derwin James, their captain. He playing at an all-pro level. What a phenomenal player he is. Take it away for us, Troy, the LA Chargers.
Oh, I struggle a little bit with this team, probably because they're in the Kansas City Chiefs division. I love this coaching staff. I absolutely love this coaching staff between Jim Harbaugh, who I think changed the culture completely from 23 to 24 year over year. It was damn impressive. From the worst defensive team, the most undisciplined defensive team, to one of the best disciplined teams. Greg Roman, his use of heavy personnel, gap running scheme is second to none. And it opens the door for a heavy use of play action, which I think is going to be great for an offensive line that's now down one of their stud right tackle. I did doubt how that would mix with Herbert at quarterback, but it did seem to work just fine. And then Jesse Minter is very similar, in my opinion, to Spagnuolo. Nickel blitz, disguise coverage, can be aggressive while being reserved at the same time. And I think Jesse Minter and Spagnuolo, that's a great corollary. And that's also what's confusing me right now, is because of these two are in the same division. The offensive line should be fine I shouldn't say fine. I mean, it's definitely a drop off from where they were when you had Slater in at right tackle, but you still got 3 first-round draft picks on the starting offensive line. The interior offensive line is much weaker, but they did acquire Mekhi Becton, who was a dog, in my opinion, for Philly last year. At running back, not one quality back, but a bunch of league average type of players, and that's fine for me at running back. And I think that this wide receiver group has a high ceiling. Ladd McConkey, undoubtedly one of the best route runners in the NFL, one of the surest catches, best hands in the NFL. And if Johnson could be a viable deep threat and Keenan Allen just fill a role of it as a possession receiver, I think the sky's the limit for the wide receiver room. And so Justin Herbert, that's really my question. That's obviously quarterback is the most important position on the field. I have a lot of belief in him, but he's shown glimpses of glory, but he's also shown his inability to make some reads late in the games. And that's last year, it came into play 100%. The defense, they lose Boza, Ford, Khalil Mack is really the only name that sticks out on the defensive line. Tupelotu came on strong down the stretch last season. Can we expect a repeat? With only 2 known quality linemen, it's hard to expect much from this group. PFF got them rated between 20th and 25th. I think that's kind of where they fall. The secondary is really the calling card for this group. I think that this group went from worst to first in from 23 to 24. We've finally seen some discipline, Derwin James being the staple. But I think there's a lot to like about this secondary. And I think that the rookie, Tarheeb Steele, well, he's not a rookie, but he played almost 1,000 snaps last season. He's going to be in his sophomore season. It's pretty damn good in the slot. And I like to see that. And he's actually a pretty big slot cornerback too. So that allows him to play in the box, play the run pretty effectively, which is very important as a nickel cornerback. 2 questions I have with this team. Can they repeat on defense what they put on film last season? Can the offense take a big step forward, which is going to be hard without their linemen? But if the answer is yes to both those questions, they're going to compete for this division. If the answer is no to either of these questions, then I expect them to be a first-round exit at best. A wide range of potential outcomes for this Chargers team, but nothing from a future standpoint stands out to me.
I think it's interesting that it's juiced to the under at 9.5. And I say that because it's the exact same line of our next team, the Denver Broncos. The Broncos have all this hype, and yet the market expects them to go no better than 9-8 this year, which I find fucking riveting. Plus 270 to win the division and 22-1 to win the Super Bowl. Peyton in his 3rd season, offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi in the 3rd season, and Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator, in his 3rd season. Sean Payton and Bo Nix ended the Broncos' 8-year playoff drought. Nix exceeded expectations, 29 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. I talked about this earlier. I gave the hint, the setup for it. From week 4 on, rookie Bo Nix had a 1.4% turnover-worthy play rate. That was the best in the entire league. Unbelievable that a rookie would do that. Unbelievable. Sutton was Nix's main weapon, and it got difficult when he was doubled. I do not see a situation where Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin can take the pressure off of him. They signed tight end Evan Ingram. I think Evan Ingram has a better chance. Now, I know Mims can stretch defenses, but you got to take the pressure off of Cortland Sutton. And Mims, Franklin, and Evan Ingram, are they going to do it? Evan Ingram is a crucial get for the Broncos. Their tight ends had a league worst 48 receiving grade last year. So it's important. Javonte Williams, 513 yards, the fewest ever for a leading rusher in Peyton's 17 seasons as head coach. So they signed J.K. Dobbins in the offseason, but he's a stopgap for R.J. Harvey out of UCF. R.J. Harvey's got to be the bell cow, you would think. All-pro left guard Quinn Meinerz. This guy is a beast. And they return all 5 starters along the offensive line. This offensive line led the NFL in pass blocking grade last season. They allowed a league best 16.2 pressure rate, a 3.7 knockdown rate. That was fourth. They were strong in the running game, 11th in run block. And it's Quinn Miners. He has 26 years old. This guy was a third-round pick. He is going to be anchoring this line for years and years and years. And now this burden, this Russell Wilson salary cap burden is down to $32 million. So what did that allow them to do? Go out and sign linebacker Dre Greenlaw and safety Talanoa Hufanga. Can you think of two guys who work perfectly in Peyton's system than those two? Then they get Alex Singleton back. Remember, he had ACL surgery last year. And John Franklin Myers, Malcolm Roach, DJ Jones, and Zach Allen, the monster. They have defensive player of the year, Patrick Surtain. They have Nick Benito, the edge rusher. Denver had 63 sacks last year. Does it go up this year? I mean, this is a very, very special defense. They say that this is the best secondary the Broncos have had since the no-fly zone of Harris Jr., Aqib Talib, TJ Ward, Darian Stewart, that took them to Super Bowl 50. Their first-round pick, Jahdae Barron, is not starting. He's backing up Jaquan McMillan because that's how good this secondary is. Take it away for us, Troy, the Denver Broncos.
The first thing I think of when I think of the Broncos, because everybody knows I'm deep into this sports betting stuff now. All the people who know me well, all my friends, family, acquaintances of my past know that I love this shit. And they all tell me that Bo Nix basically is the second coming of Jesus Christ. And it just sticks with me. It just sticks with me as I cap this team, because obviously there's some very public sentiment with this team, but it's hard to deny once you get into the X's and O's. You look at the secondary, you look at the offensive line, you look at there's so many things to like about this team. The coaching staff, I talked about it all year last year. Sean Payton, you got to give a lot of credit to this guy. A lot of the development of Bo Nix, I'm going to give credit to Sean Payton. He put his feet to the fire early in the season, helped his development happen at a rapid rate. This kid should be coming in here in his second year ready to go and ready to deliver a better season. I love Sean Payton's approach with them too, right? Very balanced, quick passing game, take the first available option, and don't be scared to take the deep ball. And he did a great job. I feel like Sean Payton, you just got to give the guy a lot of credit. The offensive line is elite. The continuity is second to none, returning all 5 starters. You can always tell who the good offensive coordinators are based on their offensive line performance. And 3 quality offensive line grading out well above average. I mean, it should mask some of the unpredictability we should expect from the left guard and the center. But at the same time, I mean, God, this offense, there's so much to like about this offense. Mims Jr. is a receiver I believe in. I've seen some things that he's done in his route running that I haven't seen anybody else do in the way he stems his routes, which is really impressive. He didn't play all that much last season. I expect him to take a much larger role going into his 3rd season. They acquire Ingram, who cannot block worth a shit, but he can receive. He's a great receiver. And then Bo Nix, I mean, this is where the potential is for this offense. How much could he develop? What kind of step could he take forward this season? Pairs well with the scheme, understands his role, proven ability to throw the deep ball, 5th in deep ball yards last season. I feel like there's a lot of upside, a lot to like about this offense. The defense, there's even more to like. The front 5, the front 8, I feel like are pretty damn well off. 7 linemen, all graded out above average on the defensive line. Jesus Christ. Nowhere else in the NFL will you find that. John Franklin Myers, our absolute wrecking ball, cannot be blocked in a pass set. That's for certain. I feel like, PFF got this team around 10th. I feel like they could be much higher than that, depending on, how much you value depth at this position. The linebackers, two absolute playmakers in Greenlaw and Singleton. Can Greenlaw return to pre-injury form? I think he will. I think he can. I think we're going to see that this season. In the secondary, you got Sertan Island. He's an island boy, no doubt about it. Completely omitting one of the options, the acquisition of Hufanga. Are you kidding me? Like Hufanga and Greenlaw? Are you like this defense should be elite? If Bo Nix could incrementally improve, they're going to be a force to reckon with. They're great in the trenches on both sides, extremely talented in the secondary, solid coaching, solid leadership. If you've been following me over the past 2 years, you'll know I faded this team pretty consistently over the past 2 years. I think it's time to shift course and look to back the Broncos. But the hard part is not everyone wants to back the Broncos. So I'm not going to back them from a future perspective. I'm going to look and pick and choose my spots because there's going to be some matchups that really favor them where I bet you they're going to be catching a good number. So I'm going to pass on the futures, but really look to back this team week to week.
If you could only have the Chargers or the Broncos on the over 9.5 wins and or division, who would it be?
The Chargers. Just because I know where the public sentiment is. I mean, if I had to say, if you omit what I know about the public and about the markets, I would say the Chargers. But I would say the Broncos, excuse me. But just knowing that, like, you know, three of my best public gauges that I use week in and week out love Bo Nix. They love the Broncos. Just tells me the Broncos are not the right future.
I mean, that's the problem, is that the public is very excited about them. That's the problem.
They're laying the biggest number in week one. They're the biggest favorite in week one.
8-point favorites right now. That's the problem. Let's talk about our 32nd team of 32, our final team of the night. Thank you, guys. Those of you who've been rocking with us for 6.5 hours. Thank you to our producer, Jose Bouquet, who's been taking care of everything backstage. Never complained, sitting there for 6.5 hours. Thank you all to all of you guys. And thank you to my co-host, Troy Torrence. Las Vegas Raiders, 4-13. 125-1 to win the Super Bowl, 16-1 to win the division, and their win total at 6.5, pretty heavily juiced to the over. The Raiders were 31st in PFF passing grade and 32nd in PFF rushing grade last season. I don't know how they won 4 games. 31st in passing grade, 32nd in rushing grade. Wow. And in comes Pete Carroll and John Spytek to right the ship. They upgraded a quarterback, got Geno Smith. They drafted a weapon in Boise State running back Ashton Genty. Smith in 3 seasons. We'll start with Smith, then we'll go to Genty. Smith in 3 seasons as Seattle's starter had a 85.6 PFF passing grade, 8th best in the NFL. At Boise State, Genty had a perfect rushing grade, 99.9. He rushed for 2,601 yards at Boise State. This was the worst rushing offense in the NFL last season. And Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers still had big seasons. It's amazing that they had big seasons on a team that averaged 18.2 points per game. Bowers set the rookie tight end record with 1,194 receiving yards, an 88.4 PFF receiving grade. That's 3rd best in the NFL. And Carroll and Geno, they have history together. Smith led the Seahawks to the 6th most wins in the NFL since becoming the starter in 2022, and he'll be protected. Colton Miller is healthy right now. Right tackle DJ Glaze, rookie center Jackson Powers Johnson. Well, he was a rookie last year. He comes back off of a strong rookie year. Max Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz are healthy to start the year. Last year's pass defense was horrific. Listen to this, Troy. The 32.0 PFF coverage grade last season was tied for the lowest earned by any franchise in the last 4 seasons, and it will be better this year. They don't have talent to improve it too much, but it'll be better. Now, in 2023, this Raiders defense was really strong. They were 9th fewest points. They allowed the 9th fewest points in the NFL. So they need Crosby and Kuntz to come back healthy. They bring in veteran linebackers Landon Roberts and Devin White, cornerback Eric Stokes, and safety Jeremy Chin. All are healthy and all are ready to go. Win total at 6.5. Does anything interest you from the future market for the Las Vegas Raiders, Troy?
I don't think so at this point. I think that this is a very interesting case study. And I'm looking at Patrick Graham. Talked about the PFF grade being absolutely terrible. And it kind of reminds me of what we've seen under Staley and just the fire drill. I mean, if you watch this team pre-snap on defense, there's just so much movement. It almost looks like they don't know what they're doing. And obviously they know what they're doing, or in theory, they should be, right? This is a professional football team, but I'm telling you, go watch the tape on this defense and you'll see if there's motion. It looks like a cover 2 is trying to change course and be a cover 6 and somebody's blowing their coverage. Like, it just looks like Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator, is trying to implement so much that it's just confusing his own defense instead of confusing the offense.
Were you surprised that they kept him?
Yeah, shocked.
I did not think Carroll was going to keep him.
I was shocked. I can't believe it. Then there's no ties between the two, at least from what I've seen. So I don't know why he kept him. I don't know why Patrick Graham's still calling defense out here. The offensive line. So I came into last season thinking that this offensive line had a ton of upside. I mean, there's a lot of reasons I like this group heading into week 1 of last season, but the left side has proven to be quality with Colton Miller and Parham. But the right side is young, unproven, but it does have some potential. If they can get the right tackle, who I think is DJ Glaze is going into his second year. And if they could get the right guard, Johnson, to take a step forward, this could be a top 10 unit. The running back position, after watching Boise State in their first game of the season, I was on USF. I cashed it very easily. They won 32-7. After watching that, I was like, damn, Genty might have been a little bit more to this team than I thought. But at the same time, now he's heading into the NFL. And we know running backs rarely have the ability to impact the spread outside of 0.025 points, a quarter of a point. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 in the league that do. Maybe he is one of them. Maybe he is. So the wide receiver position, hey, I'm going to say this is a top 10 wide receiver core with Bowers, Myers, and Cooper. Well-rounded group. And I think that, Cooper's a viable deep threat. Myers is great catch, a possession type of receiver, good catch radius too. And then you've got Bowers, who is going to be one of the best tight ends in the league in the coming years. And then you got Geno Smith, who, yes, he has some talent. He's capable of taking advantage of defensive errors, but he struggles coming off his pre-snap reads. Like, if he's wrong pre-snap, it just feels like he's stuck in the mud. He doesn't have the ability to adjust post-snap, and he doesn't release the football. So, like, you gotta, as a quarterback, you have to anticipate, make the throw to a spot on the field. I feel like he kind of comes off that mark, and he just doesn't trust it for whatever reason. He'll help a team win. Geno Smith, that is, he'll help a team win, but he won't be the reason the team wins. On the defensive side, this is the worst defense in the league. Not one level of this defense, from the defensive line to the linebackers to the secondary, grades out in the top 25. I don't expect that to change. Now, first round pick Tyree Wilson did improve this unit, but I don't think that this team is going to be very capable of winning too many games. So seeing a 6.5 is actually pretty surprising to me. And it's juiced to the over. I disagree with it. I want to bet the under because I don't think Geno Smith, Genty, and this coaching staff is going to make all that big of a difference, especially looking at this defense. Like, God, I'm not a believer in this Raiders team. Under or pass, Jimmy?
Chip Kelly, first season as an offensive coordinator.
I kind of like him with this team, though.
They have the Patriots in New England week 1. Week 2, they host the Chargers on the Monday night doubleheader. They right now are 3-point dogs at home. That is the breakdown of AFC teams. Let's do a quick once over here on what we are looking for in the futures market. I get that the Dolphins is a pretty popular under. I don't know if I get there at the under 7.5 on the Dolphins. I don't really want the Jets over 5.5, but I can understand why that appeals. The Patriots total at 8.5, as AM pointed out, second easiest schedule in the NFL. A lot of belief in that football team. I don't know if I'm part of that. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting the Ravens at plus 650 in your pocket. Now, what happens if they lose to the Bills in Buffalo week 1? I mean, that's a pick 'em. If they beat Buffalo in Buffalo week 1, you're never going to see 650 again unless Jackson gets hurt. 650 will go away and will never return. If they beat Buffalo in week 1. That's a pick 'em right now. So these are all crucial questions that you have to ask yourself. Then the Bengals, I understand AM's bullishness on them. I need to sit with that for longer. The Browns, the interest in the under 47.5, it's still very appealing. The Texans to win the division at minus 105 and the Colts over 7.5 wins. I find both of those appealing. If I am on the Colts over 7.5 wins, maybe I should also be on them to win the division. The Jaguars under 7.5 is appealing, and so is the Titans under 5.5. But again, you don't take 2 in the same division. And then the AFC West, I've kind of left alone right now. What is your action here, Troy, for AFC Futures?
So I have 4 official bets. Oh, futures. Well, I did move on the Browns. So I have week 1 Browns plus 6 minus 120. And then for futures, I have Commanders team total under 9.5 at plus 100. Falcons team total over 7.5 at minus 135. Jaguars team total under 7.5 wins minus 108. And the only other 2, I guess make it 3. I'm going to add one more to my considerations. Is the the ones that I have not moved on, that I might move on before Tuesday, is the Colts team total over 7.5, the Ravens Super Bowl, and the Jets team total over, what is it, 5.5 at this point. So that's the 3 I haven't moved on that I'm still considering.
Well, I cannot wait for Tuesday. I cannot wait. With all of this work, of course, it was a 6.5 hour 2 shows. I did not think it would be, but we had a lot of work to do, and we can't do it without you guys. Thank you all so much for your support. Groovy Alien, Harold Williams, Coin, Dougie Wise, Big Zoe, Susie Easton. Thank you guys for rocking with us. It means a ton, an absolute ton. Chase J, congratulations on winning the horse race a couple weeks ago to get yourself free entry into the Cappers contest. Let's talk about whether you want the Cappers contest or the survival pool. Thank you guys, Gorky, all of you guys. Truly thank you guys for the support here. It means so much to us. Thank you to our producer, Jose Bouquet, working, making this all look good, working backstage. Thank you, Jose. I apologize for keeping you here so long this evening. And a big thank you to my co-host, Troy Torrence. I cannot wait to rock. It was difficult to psychologically prepare. The anxiety. I got sick. I've been alone for 2 days in the dark, preparing, and then you think of you're spending all off season kind of preparing, and the harder that you work and you get out of life what you put into it. I hope that we see the benefits of all of this work. So thank you guys all. Luke Burrow in both contests. Thank you, Luke, my man. Dougie White says, can't wait to violate the bookies all season long. My dude says he's going to be on the Jets over 5.5 wins. Troy, thank you for all of this, man. I'm so excited to work with you. Season 3 Bankroll Blitz, double premiere right here. Troy, any last words for the Cappers supporting the show?
I have never been more highly motivated than I am right now to succeed. I'm coming off a very, very tough stretch in the MLB in the second half of the season. It's been painful. It's been dreadful. luckily, football's already picked me back up with the NCAA football starting. I've had a great start to the season, and trust me, that's not my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse is definitely in the NFL, where we could depend on line movement with the market efficiency database. I can't wait to talk week 1. I haven't dove into week 1 yet specifically. Few games I had to go peek at, but really looking forward to it. Jimmy, it's a blessing to not only be up here in front of the chat, but sitting up here with you, because I have nothing but just an immense amount of respect for you. I've learned so much from you. And this is before I was even active in chat, just watching like a shadow in the background, man. I think your quality, as quality gets, like you're the best in the industry, in my opinion. And this chat also is the best, in my opinion. And that's why I'm here. And I cannot wait to succeed. I'm going to put my fucking nuts on the table every chance I get, tell you guys exactly how I feel, and I'm going to be unapologetic about it. So I'm really looking forward to it, and we're going to have a successful season.
Yeah, let's get after it. Thank you all so much. We see you guys in less than 48 hours for week 1, and we'll be talking football nonstop until the first Sunday in February. And even after that, Troy, you're the man. Get some rest. I'll see you in less than 48 hours. And all of you in the chat, we'll see you soon. Let's get that cash. Leche. Hey, los bookmakers.